Faces dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here, and John's signals are very, very funny. Ronald Hernandez is now part of Atlanta United. That was announced just a bit ago, and this is, again, not a surprise. This had been talked about for a while. It had gone quiet for a minute as we were kind of waiting to see timing of everything, but Ronald Hernandez, last of Aberdeen, previously of Stabæk, Zamora FC in Venezuela, 17 caps for the Venezuelan senior national team. Player who Atlanta United had scouted prior to his trip to Aberdeen, actually collaborated with Aberdeen on the scouting once Aberdeen expressed an interest. And look, it didn't work at Aberdeen. The timing is a huge part of this. I mean, let's go back in time. He was signed at the very end of the window in January last year. What happened in, March of last year?
Yeah, the whole pandemic thing.
Yeah. He arrived 2 months off because the Norwegian season had ended at the beginning of November. So he was 2 months off, out of shape, played a couple of games right after arrival. Wasn't fully fit. Started one. I think he was able to get to the 60th or 65th minute. Then the pandemic hits. He was separated from his wife, I believe child as well, in Venezuela. And he's in a place that he had been for a couple of months. Actually, not even a couple of months, probably a few weeks. That's not ideal in any form or fashion. And late last year, after the season had restarted for Aberdeen and he wasn't getting in the team regularly. The team actually changed formation as well, went to 3 center backs and was playing wing backs rather than a flat 4. It wasn't working very well for him. There was talk about him being homesick. He did get a chance to go join up with Venezuela's national team for a couple of games, but you're kind of in a bubble scenario there, so you're not able to actually go and see people really. I hope they found a way for that to happen for him. But it wasn't working, and it was time to move on. So he's going to come to Atlanta, which makes a lot of sense. Again, Atlanta had scouted him previously. He's a right back, which you needed a little bit of right back depth now with Franco Escobar at Newell's. He's a player that was known to the team. He's a player that you've done deals with his agent, who is Joseph Martinez's agent. Atlanta United scouted Venezuelan talent pretty consistently. So he checks all the boxes. He's a guy who likes to get forward. He's got pace. He attacks well. Defensively at Aberdeen, actually, that was the main review on his performances, was the defense was solid. It was he wasn't able to contribute as much going forward, and I think a lot of that was down to fitness and comfort level. So I think he'll be a better fit here. He's obviously closer to home. He's got a fellow Venezuelan in the squad. It's a very South American squad as opposed to Aberdeen. I think it will all work out better. This is a guy who went to Stabæk and played over 50 times for a top team in Norway. He can adjust to different situations. Atlanta will be a much easier situation for him to adjust to.
And can we go back to the presentation of how it was brought out on the Twitters this morning?
Sure, because that's always the most important thing.
Yeah, I know. But it was a 2-step Darren Eales process this morning, where it was both Darren Eales, the civilian, and Darren Eales of Atlanta United. And
Darren Eales from Atlanta United is not a civilian?
But in the sense of not associated with Atlanta United, the soccer club where we usually get the cryptic tweets involving Atlanta United transactions.
Okay.
So it starts out with Darren Eales, not employed by Atlanta United, coming out with a shout out to one of my favorite American TV programs, hashtag 5 Stripes Don't Stop, and a picture of a program of 5 women who are standing there looking rather glamorous.
Did you have any idea what that was?
No.
You didn't know what it was?
No, I did not.
Okay.
And then looking at the timelines, it's Real Housewives of Atlanta. That's who that was. Mm-hmm. And so taking the acronym or the initials RHOA, That was, and then Darren Eales, employed by Atlanta United, using the hashtag right back at ya. Hashtag 5 stripes don't stop. So putting those two together from Darren Eales employed by Atlanta United and Darren Eales not employed by Atlanta United, the two-step tweet this morning, bringing in RHOA. Ronald Hernandez of Atlanta. Right back at you. It took me a while. Yeah.
Thank you for the breakdown of all of that.
But no, but
That
just
was
the fact that Darren Eales employed by Atlanta United actually employed Darren Eales not employed by Atlanta United, who folks at the beginning of everything kind of got confused when it came to Twitter handles. Getting a two-step Darren Eales tweet process, I thought was pretty funny.
Yes, at Darren Eales joined Twitter in 2018. He's English. It looks like he might be a Newcastle fan, actually, so good on you, Alex Pacine. Hadn't tweeted since October? Yeah, October. Not a frequent tweeter. So that comes out, and it was not Darren Eagles. It was not a fake Darren Eales. It was actually a real Darren Eales in England who was involved in this one. Even if you didn't know who the picture was, did you get it at right back at you?
Yeah, that was the part that kind of gave it away for me. But to see all of the work that went into it, the Real Housewives of Atlanta, and like, oh, okay, a show I never watch. So, yes, and then trying to think of it in that manner, RHOA, right back at you. So, yes, 2 steps. It took me 2 sentences and a little while to figure it out, but yes.
The other Darren Eales is a teacher in England, so there you go. I'll get to you in a minute, Bernd. Good times. I mean, this is, I think people were maybe overhyping this move a little bit. I think Hernandez is going to push Brooks Lennon. I think we'll see him from time to time. I do. But you got to get him back up to speed after a year that was very difficult for him. A year that was, he's away from his family, a year that, saw him move and then not able to get settled. In a strange place. I mean, there was just so many different things. Give him time. I think he's going to need to have some patience with him. And, for him, it's in some ways, it's like Joseph when it comes to the Venezuelan national team. I mean, he's in that mix to be the right back for this team. He started for the 2019 youth national teams. He's been in World Cups at the youth level. He's played in the Copa America. He's defended Lionel Messi. I mean, this is a legit right back. And the South American level, but he's going to need a little bit of time to bounce back. So Brooks Lennon is your starter at right back. Hernandez is going to push him and be the reserve. And you're in a good spot now for depth on that position, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like with everything that went on in the last calendar year, the last 12 months, just understand where he's coming from when he's going to be a part of things with Atlanta United. It's not something where he's going to immediately step in and be at the front of the line and just ready and raring to go. It's going to take a little while to get adjusted to things. He's going to be a part of the depth at the position. He's here to help. Pedigree is there. So let's see where it goes.
Well, it gives you the ability, too, that if you, depending on availability, depending on injuries, Brooks Lennon can play as a right wing, and Hernandez can play as a right back. So he gives you that flexibility as well. He can play as a wing back if you're playing 3 center backs, as can Brooks Lennon. So you've got good options. Ricky says the Aberdeen-Atlanta United partnership continues to bear fruit. I mean, it makes sense. This was a situation where you go back to when the signing happened at Aberdeen. Derek McInnes, the manager, talked about immediately how Atlanta was involved, and when they identified Ronald Hernandez as a player because they scout the Norwegian league, Atlanta United was like, yeah, we've been scouting him too. Here's what we have. Oh, here's what you guys have. Okay, cool. So there was shared information at that time, and it's a safe assumption that if it went well or even if it didn't go well, hey, we might be interested in the player as well. And I think this solves it for both sides. He needed a change of air. He needed a change of scenery. It wasn't working in Scotland. He gets closer to home. He gets into a club and I think a locker room that's probably a better fit for him right now. So I'm sure that they've worked it out to where everybody's going to come out of this all right financially, and you move on. And Ronald Hernandez joins this group. Excited to see what he can do, and excited to just see him get back to his full quality. That timing was tough, and I think Aberdeen fans were baffled by the whole thing because they said he wasn't a type of player that they normally went for, I think mainly being South American. But coming from the Norwegian League, that is a kind of player that they normally go for. They just didn't normally go for South Americans from the Norwegian League. Right. It could have worked out if you hadn't had a stoppage, if you hadn't had the lack of being able to bring his family to Aberdeen. It could have worked out, but it didn't. And you have to move on and make it best for everybody. I mean, he's 23 years old. He's not quite in the prime of his career. You don't want to keep him in a spot where it's not working right now. So I think this is the best for everybody involved, and hopefully he can contribute and be part of Atlanta United's squad in 2021 and play some meaningful minutes.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that a lot of times that we forget that they're not just athletes, they're people too. And when you are as far away from home as you would be in this situation, and you're as detached from your family as you are, and contact is difficult, and being supportive is virtual. It does take a lot out of you, and you're focused on that as much, if not more, than trying to be a professional athlete in this case. And so I think that you're closer to home. You have that those connections are a lot closer, and it gives you that opportunity to focus on your career and your family in even ways, hopefully on the other side of a pandemic.
Wildchara says very lukewarm on it. Just don't rate SPL. I mean, Wildchara, nobody's saying this is a move that's going to win MLS Cup. Anybody who's saying that is not paying attention. I think he's coming in for depth. He's coming in on loan, first off. Ricky Ricardo asked about, is it an option to buy, an obligation to buy? It's not mentioned in the release. I don't know if you really need that in writing with two teams that are linked like Atlanta and Aberdeen. It's a loan, which gives you the flexibility of making it incredibly cap-friendly. It wouldn't surprise me if he's in a supplemental spot because cap obligations are probably going to be extremely low. So that helps you a ton. He will take up an international slot on the roster, and I know, cue the freak out. Everybody's running around like Kevin from Home Alone. International slots! International slots! Ah! It'll be okay. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. I promise. It'll be okay. We'll see what happens. But no, it's not a move that makes this team the MLS Cup favorite tomorrow. No, it's not. And that's okay. Not every move is. It's all good. Katie Weaver asked about, speaking of Venezuelan outside backs, whatever happened to Jose Hernandez playing in the second division in Colombia. I was wondering that myself, and he has found a home with a team. I cannot remember what it is off the top of my head. I'll get it for you in just a bit, Katie. But he's in the second division in Colombia. And I think it's a team that's got a shot at getting promoted. So it's potentially a good spot for him. You never know. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think you got to be careful. Like Wildchara said, like, I don't rate players from Scotland or the SPL. I don't rate players from this country. I don't rate players here. There's great players that fit your system from all over the world. You can't rule players out because of where they're from or what league they come from. I think you have to be careful about that. So let's see how he does. And I think he comes in to push Brooks Lennon to be a better Brooks Lennon. And that's a good thing. You want competition across the board. Right back was one that, you were going to have to move Anton Walks out to play there. You're going to have to slide Mikey Ambrose over to play on that side. Not ideal. Walks is probably a better fit there, but Walks is going to be depth at center back as well. So you're able to bring in somebody who probably will not affect your salary cap or roster positioning outside of an international slot in any dramatic way. You do it, you make it work, and you are good. So we'll be taking any other questions on Ronald Hernandez. We'll be taking any other Atlanta United questions you have. We'll be talking Champions League today. We'll be talking about the Chilean First Division, the relegation playoff yesterday with Colo-Colo When I say that Colo Colo survives, it's normally what you say when a team stays up, but if you didn't see the banners that the team's fans left for the team when they left to go to this game, there's a little bit of a double meaning there. And we'll get into the SheBelieves Cup, which starts today. U.S., Canada, Brazil, and Argentina on the women's side. Those games are all going to be available on the Fox family of networks. So lots of things to get into. And we'll be taking your Thursday thoughts as well. Go ahead.
Jose Hernandez playing left back for La Equidad. Correct.
There you go. Thank you, John. Thank you. Where do you want to start?
Oh, wow. I guess we'll start with, now from watching, the tail end of the Colo-Colo match, I want you to get into that, but I guess we can start with Champions League.
No, we'll do Colo-Colo because you're overselling it. It was a relegation playoff. What happens in relegation playoffs? Teams are clinging to stay up, right?
Yeah.
So Colo-Colo, who had never been relegated in Chile ever, was forced into this game. They gave up a penalty in the 96th minute in their last regular season game that put them into this. They were playing a team that's bounced back and forth between the first and the second division in Universidad de Concepcion. And Carlos Carmona, another Atlanta United connection, was starting for Colo-Colo, and I think he was captaining the side. I'm not 100% sure of that. He's definitely one of the leaders in the group. They got a great goal from a young Argentine on loan from Talleres in the first half, and that gave him the lead. Colo-Colo has not been very good with leads, have not been very good for a while now. So as the game got towards the end, it was clear the ball as far away from our goal as possible, waste as much time as possible. If anybody touches you, fall down and roll around for as long as possible because you're trying to stay up. Like, again, this is not just let's just try to win this game and let's be cynical. This is fighting for survival in a lot of ways. And yes, the banner that the Barra Bravas of Colo-Colo left for the team, as they did see them off in great numbers with flares and fireworks, etc., which was pretty cool. There was a banner that said, basically, go win or we'll kill you. I'm not kidding. We'll kill you. That's what it said. We'll kill you. Real healthy. So, yes, I am going to waste as much time as possible if I have a 1-0 lead late in that game. I will fake whatever I have to fake. I will draw whatever contact I have to draw. I will try to get the goalkeeper sent off like Carlos Carmona did. I will do whatever it takes when I have my fans saying they're going to kill me if I lose. So, Colo-Colo did, and they were able to see it out. There was a VAR incident in the 95th minute. There were 5 minutes of stoppage time. Colo-Colo is trying to just clear the ball away on a pretty dangerous situation. Looks like it's going to be a throw for Concepcion. But they went back and looked at it, and it was 100% correct. Player from Concepcion comes across the Colo-Colo player and goes studs up right below his knee. Whacks him pretty good. Straight red card. So that turns what would have been a deep throw with a player who was good on the long throw, would have put it right into the box the last play of the game, turns that into a free kick. Colo-Colo is able to clear. They survive. Maybe literally, definitely figuratively, and Colo-Colo is not relegated, so they get to hold that number. I think there's 10 clubs in major South American leagues that have never been relegated. Boca's one of them. River is not. They got relegated not that long ago. I can't remember all the others off the top of my head, but Colo-Colo was trying to maintain their place in that elite club, and they barely did, and we'll see where it goes forward now. On the South American front, El Mataflow lets us know, because people have been asking, Independiente del Valle is launching their new jersey tonight out of Ecuador. If you are in the Discord, I'm sure Jorge will let you know there where to watch. It might be free to watch. It should be free to watch if you want to watch this unveiling. Check out the Discord and the Soccer Over There channel for that information. And thanks, Chiefs Coach Steve, for your subscription. 5 months straight. You are the man.
Nice.
Let's get into Champions League, because that's where John wanted to go next. I'm not going to pick any more Champions League games, first off.
I'm not either, no.
Because I seem to be a jinx. I went kind of against the grain, kind of, in day one and got it wrong, and I went chalk Day 2, got it wrong. Although Juventus is in pretty good shape. They got that away goal, which was critical. They lost 2-1 at Porto. They were trying to get a penalty at the very, very end. Did you see that play, John?
No, I did not.
Okay, well, I can't ask you anything. Cristiano Ronaldo brought the ball down. He was run over. The question is if he was already going down. I don't think he was. I think it should have been a penalty for Juventus. It pains me a little bit to say that, but I think it should have been a penalty, and they could have got it to 2-2. Regardless, they are okay, and I think they'll be okay in the second leg. They get back home. If they win 1-0, they go through on away goals. Porto took advantage of mistakes. The first one was a horrendous mistake by Juventus. Porto's a good defend and counter team. They're going to defend for their lives in Turin, and I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off. That away goal was critical for Juve. Sevilla Dortmund, on the other hand, was pretty much madness. Sevilla took the lead first. Dortmund came back. Erling Haaland with a couple of goals because that's what he does. 18 goals and 13 appearances now. It's absurd what he is doing in this competition. And Dortmund showed something that we have not seen from them in a while. They haven't looked good in league play in quite a while. And Sevilla had been looking really good, and they did not here. Now they've got to go to Germany, and they do have 2 away goals, but they have 2 goals. They've got to match Dortmund's 3 away goals, or they've got to win 2-0, which would get them through. I don't know if that's going to happen with Erling Haaland on the other side. It's a massive win for Dortmund. Massive, massive win for Dortmund. I did not see it coming.
No, I did not. And Haaland said that he was motivated by what he saw from Mbappe the day before. Come on, man, you only got a brace. Come on. That's some out. But 18 goals in 13 appearances. Just, when you get to see a player like that, just in that kind of a zone, I mean, it's pretty to watch. It's just, you wonder about there's nothing that can stop the guy. And when you're in that kind of a zone, it's really cool to see. And I'm looking at the Cristiano Ronaldo play right now. And yeah, I'm thinking it's a penalty.
Yeah, I thought it was a penalty watching it live. If you guys have seen it, please chime in on the comments. Chime in on Twitter, at Soccer Down Here. Share your Thursday thoughts with us. Join in on the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/Soccer Down Here. Clayton Poss says Erling Haaland is going to shatter the goals before their 23rd birthday. It's pretty ridiculous what he's doing. It's pretty ridiculous, and he scores different ways. I mean, I can't wait to see this summer because I know there's talk about Jadon Sancho. I know there's talk about Messi and Ramos and Aguero and some of the guys out of contract. Somebody's going to throw a stupid amount of money at Erling Haaland. Mm-hmm. And if they don't make the Champions League next year, Dortmund might have to take it.
Yeah,
a year earlier than they'd like to. I think they know he's going to be gone in 2 years. I think they want him for 1 more year. But if they're not in Champions League next year, I think they're going to have to do it. We went through it a while back where there was a list of players that they could be considering moving on from. I think it's 2 separate tracks. And if you're Dortmund, look, it's easier to replace 1 than to replace 5 guys. Because you could sell Erling Haaland for over €100 million. And if you're looking at selling, Axel Witsel and Gio Reyna, which was on that list, and
Bellingham,
I don't know if you're going to sell Bellingham just yet. Sancho, maybe. Like, you can put together a package of guys, and you're probably going to get most of that for Erling Haaland. So this is going to get weird. A lot of it's going to come down to their play in league. If they qualify for Champions League, and Byrne reminds us, and this is very true, and this is why I think they do it this summer. He has a release clause next summer of 75 million. I believe that's euros. And that's nothing. That's chump change. They're going to make the move this summer. I think they're going to have to. If they get into Champions League next year, maybe they hold on because they'll know that somebody will hit that release clause the following year. I mean, and you don't get to negotiate at that point. My guess is they sell early. Because you can make more money. I'm thinking 100 to 150
Yeah.
from one of the big boys. Chelsea's name has come up. Manchester United's name has come up. Manchester City's name has come up. I'm sure PSG will come up because it always does. Real Madrid will probably come up. Is going to happen. Is going to happen. I don't think he's there next year. I just don't see it because I don't think they qualify for Champions League.
Yeah. The number, as you were going through it in your head, it's like if you can capitalize on it now and go north of 9 figures instead of waiting for that $75 million release clause, then I think you have to do it now. And look, Roman Abramovich has spent $2 billion. I think it's 2 billion pounds, but it was 2 billion pounds in bringing folks into Chelsea since he has taken over as owner. To me, he would be someone who would be at the front of the line for a situation like this to bring in an Erling Haaland. And but yeah, all the big guys would want to be involved, and I think that you have to, considering you could make more now than you could at this time next year. That's just, for me, that just makes economic sense for a player of this stature that you can capitalize on right now.
It's the understandable thing because release clause. Somebody comes in with a check that is cleared at 75 million euro, he's gone. You have nothing to say about it. You can ask for more than that now. Nobody's going to pay you more than that next summer. And I think you're going to need more than that for him. So I think it happens this year. We'll see. But Dortmund is looking like they could advance, which I did not see them beating Sevilla. It's not done. It's 3-2. There's ways for Sevilla to win that are not insane in the leg in Germany, but it's a harder road for them. I think for Juventus, that away goal, critical. Getting the away goal, losing 2-1, I think they're okay. I think Juventus goes through.
Yeah, I think they do. But yeah, that goal yesterday was big to not have the large hole to dig out of when you're coming back from the second leg.
Yeah, critical. Bernd wanted to let you know that the team that you are a big fan of in Belgium, their game got moved up to 10 a.m. Eastern time.
Yes, it did. Brugge.
Why do you get so excited about this? Can you tell us anything more about this team?
No. I just like sounding like a foghorn.
You just like sounding like a foghorn.
Yeah. And they are they're a slight favorite against Dynamo Kiev and in Kiev. Plus 188 Kiev, your draws north of plus 200, and Brugge plus 175.
Can you tell me why it was moved up to 10 a.m. our time?
Why it was moved up to 10 a.m.? No. I imagine
you can't tell me.
Probably because of the weather.
That's what I was asking.
And weather and temperature.
That's why I'm asking. You got a whole bunch of Europa League games in this match day. Milan is on the road. Red Star, you've got PSV at Olympiacos. You've got Dinamo Zagreb at Krasnodar. 12:55 are all of these. Manchester United at Real Sociedad. That should be a fun one. Leicester at Slavia Prague. That's also an interesting one. Roma at Braga. Kind of interesting. Tottenham at Wolfsberger of Austria. I don't know what to think of Tottenham these days. I really don't. No. Young Boys hosting Leverkusen. And then the 3 o'clocks, Granada hosting Napoli. Lille hosting Ajax. That's probably the game of the day. Maccabi Tel Aviv hosting John's Shakhtar Donetsk. Molde hosting Hoffenheim. We'll see if Chris Richards gets into the team for Hoffenheim. Red Bull Salzburg hosting Villarreal. That'll be a fun one, and there will probably be quite a few American eyes on that one with the potential of Brendan Aronson in the group. Royal Antwerp hosting Rangers, and Benfica and Arsenal, 2 big clubs playing. Not in Portugal, I don't think, or are they in Portugal? I can't remember which games are moved.
Yeah.
I think Portugal might allow people in. I know Spain didn't.
Yeah.
Which makes total sense. All right, here and here, and, Arsenal's coming from the UK, which they're worried about variants and such.
Mm-hmm.
It is 10 degrees in Kiev for the Brugge and Dynamo Kiev game. 10 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
That's no bueno.
That is a no bueno.
Mm-mm. I would not enjoy myself in that nonsense.
Yeah. It is. It's the Arsenal matches at Estadio Olimpico in Rome.
There you go. I thought that was one that was moved because it wouldn't make sense that the Spanish would move and then Portugal was like, "Nah, we're cool. You can come in and hang out."
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's in Rome. Some of these games are not where they're supposed to be. Yeah. Welcome. Okay. What else is on Twitter?
A couple of things that are domestic.
We can get into domestic, international, intergalactic if you want to.
Okay. Matt Wagner. Matt Wagner's not freaking out, but a serious question about international slots.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. Matt Wagner. Matt, my friend. You're not freaking out, but you bring up the term international slots.
No,
This is what happens to my brain when international slots are talked about. Okay.
He says, since I don't know how it fully works, aside from getting a green card issued, what other ways can a team free up an international slot?
That's it. Then they don't count as an international. Like it's really, really simple. Like international slots are players who do not have a green card or who are not U.S. citizens. They take up an international slot. You have a certain number of international slots that are available around the league, and when you go back in time to when they introduced them, you had them divvied out at 8 apiece. Well, some teams have traded them. Some teams have acquired extra ones, and some teams did really stupid things at the beginning of this and actually traded them away forever. Like most international slots that get traded are short term. There are 2 that were done permanently, which is mind-blowing, that Real Salt Lake in 2005 traded an international slot permanently.
A perpetual trade.
They gave it up forever to the Colorado Rapids, and the Houston Dynamo gave up an international slot forever to the New York Red Bulls in 2009. Since then, nobody's done that because it's really stupid. Right now, according to, and this is actually a little shocking, but the count that is currently accurate with numbers of slots, not the players in them, they haven't updated that yet, but the number of slots, the count at Wikipedia, if you go to MLS International roster slots, is pretty good. It is last updated through January 31st, and Atlanta United has not had any additional international slot trades since January 31st. 8 slots, and I believe now you have 10 players that would need them. Okay, you're going to have to actually, I have to go back and check that. Let me hold on, and I'll tell you what I have from my list, because I've got my spreadsheet of who's international, who's not. Right now, Fernando Meza, Anton Walks, Santiago Sosa, Marcelino Moreno, Mateus Rossetto, Jurgen Damm, Jake Mulroney, Eric Lopez, and Lisandro Lopez. So 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 with now Ronald Hernandez, 10, and Franco Ibarra could be 11. Now, who could get green cards out of this? I have no idea, because that process is so hard to follow. Anton Walks, having been here before, I don't know if that helps him, and then coming back, and he's been here for a year. Meza's been here for a year, but Meza might not be with the team because of rumors, although there hasn't been any more rumors for a while, so maybe he is. Mulroney's been here for a full year. Lopez has been here for most of a year. Rossetto's been here for a full year. Moreno has been here for most of a year. Those are all possibilities in terms of getting a green card. So that's where it stands. You know, like, you're going to have to get some international slots. Yeah, possibly. You're going to have to trade some allocation money or trade a player potentially to get them. Or you're going to have some green cards lined up for it. Or you're going to have to, you know, none of these guys are really Atlanta United 2 loan possibilities, but that's another way you can manage it. If you loan somebody to the 2s, they don't take up an international slot on your MLS roster, but they can't play for you in MLS. So that's where it stands. Thomas Jewin says there are 9 international slots now. Oh, they acquired one. Yeah, thank you. Let me see if that one's on the list, though. Hold on. Thomas Jewin. I might have given the Wikipedia page props, and then they blew it. So did they add the one from December 13th of 2020? Let's see. They might not have. I'll have to go back and double check it. You have 8 or 9. I want to make sure. You could have another international center back in for Mesa. That's absolutely correct, Thomas Jewin. You had one involved, and Gwen's trying to figure it out too, but she's not helping me at the moment.
I thought she was just yelling at Wikipedia.
No, she's yelling at me. A couple of trades involving international slots that got a little, not screwy, but to keep up with here, is the Emerson Heineman rights deal with FC Dallas. Atlanta sent a slot to Dallas as part of that. They got it back at the end of 2020. Atlanta acquired an international slot from Columbus in the Darlington Nagbe slot. That went back to Columbus at the end of 2020, so that's a wash. And there you go. You have 8 or 9. That's where it stands. So you're going to have to do some work, or you're going to have to get some green cards. And I don't know the green card process, so I couldn't tell you. But it's never come up to where, see, now you can't do it. Now you got to sell this guy to a club in the Middle East because you're out of international slots. It's never happened. So, yeah, you might have to make a trade, but it's not worth freaking out about. Let's put it that way. There's plenty of time to sort this out.
And Tafka's question, his first for the morning, he says, question, colon.
Is he freaking out too?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
Good.
No,
Thank you.
Clarification and multi-part from Tafka here.
Okay.
So
let me get the black helicopters ready just in case.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think you'll need them, but it's just a clarification.
You never know.
Says, I know. I've heard it referred to as a, quote, sell-on percentage. I've heard it referred to as, quote, retaining X percent of his rights, meaning a certain player. But the recent Defensa issue has me wondering, are these the same thing? Mm-mm. Or is there a scenario where a team with a majority percentage sells a player on and the lower percentage club owner has to sign off on the deal before it sells its own minority share of the player?
Yeah, that happens all the time. They sell their percentage. They can't do anything about it. Like, that's the thing, and that's what I tried to explain. And I think maybe people didn't listen or paid attention to other things. Defensa and River have a relationship that made that more complicated than just River saying no, they're not going to allow it. They couldn't, because Defensa owned the player's pass. Yes, they had 50% of it, and River had 50%. But Defensa knew that, hey, River wants the player back. If we go ahead and sell him on to Atlanta United and just cut them a check, they're going to be angry with us. And we would like to keep Enzo Fernandez on loan right now. We would like to keep, I believe it was Nahuel Gajardo. We would like to have more players on loan from River in the future. So, yeah, we're gonna work with them on this. Yeah, we're going to do that. That's a different situation. Now, the differences between owning a percentage of the pass and the sell-on fee, you see sell-on fees in situations where teams don't have a percentage of the pass or have a lesser percentage of the pass than a sell-on fee, because that's what it means. It's saying that, okay, you have no stake to this, but we're going to give you 30% of the player's next transfer, or 20%, et cetera, whatever the sell-on fee is. In a situation where the pass is split, the teams split the proceeds from a sale in that regard, but there's one team in control. Now, of course, are there situations where a team has 50% of the player, but they have the controlling interest, the other team has 50%, but they've negotiated that they have to both sign off on a deal? Absolutely. But it's not always the case, and it's especially not the case where you see situations with somebody owning 60% of the pass or 70% of the pass or whatever. You don't need a sell-on fee in the Christian Pavone potential situation where Galaxy would buy 60% of the pass, Boca would have 40%. There's no need for a sell-on fee because you're not going to give them more money than 40% of a future sale, unless Boca's really good negotiators, which would be amazing. You're just going to give them 40% of the sale. And Boca couldn't stop you from making a sale unless they have a first right of refusal in a deal, which is very possible. Yeah, I know, all that's complicated. So don't give yourself a headache. They are different things, but it mostly comes down to sell-on fees typically are in place where somebody does not own any percentage of the player. It is 100% movement of the pass. The sharing of the pass is a different situation, but it is not always a situation where the team that owns part of the pass but doesn't have the actual pass, the controlling interest, it's not always a situation where they can stop a move from being done. That needs to be understood.
And Tafka says, I assume the minority share of rights owning club always forfeits its percentage ownership, but is compensated by that percentage from the transfer fee.
Nothing's always, because welcome to South America. I'm sure there are plenty of first right of refusal kind of deals. I would, if I could negotiate that in. River could have had that on David Martinez. Nobody reported it that way, but they could have. I would have put it in. If I'm River in that scenario and I'm like, man, I like this young center back. I got nowhere to play him. He's got to go play. He went on loan to this team. It went really well. We've got a good relationship with them. They're going to give us $900,000. Yeah, I'm looking at our bank account. We could use $900,000. All right, cool. You get 50% of the pass for $900,000, but you can't sell without coming to us first. We can either match or we can make our own deal to keep the player with you. Maybe that was a handshake. Maybe that was written in. You don't know. Clubs that don't do a lot of business together, it's more like Tafka said, where it's probably a situation of, and the Deportivo Cali River Plate one right now with Palavecino is probably more along these lines. River couldn't afford to pay the 100%. Deportivo Cali was willing to take $2.7 million for 50% of the pass, but River has the pass, and River has control. Did Deportivo Cali negotiate a first right of refusal or anything? We don't know. Probably not in this case, although it is possible. I hope some of that made sense to somebody out there listening.
Yeah, no, it did.
It's complicated.
And, it is. A couple of other notes real quick before we're caught up on Twitter. Chris Hutchison says that when I do my salute to the club that is playing early today.
You can say it. I know you enjoy it. Do it again.
No, it hurts. If I do it more than like once or twice, it hurts. It literally hurts trying to do it like that. He says it sounds more like an alarm on an old car horn when I'm referring to Club Bruges. But Chris Hutchison did say, since you said intergalactic, if there was something intergalactic.
What do we have on the intergalactic front?
Chris said that Pluto was discovered on this day in 1930.
That's pretty cool. Pluto's not a planet anymore, is it?
No, it drifted out of being a planet, but there's discussions that it would be reconsidered as a planet.
Who said Pluto's not a planet? Who made this determination?
It was some star chamber of astronomers. And
why y'all hating on Pluto?
I know, that's the thing.
See, Thomas Twin's telling us it's back to a planet. It's a dwarf planet, according to Nicolifi.
Okay.
Why do you got to criticize it and call it a dwarf planet? What's up with that?
The International Astronomical Union downgraded the status of Pluto to that of a dwarf planet because it did not meet the 3 criteria.
Oh, there's criteria. Okay.
Apparently so, yeah.
Yeah, what are they?
Let me see what the IAU says. That what is a dwarf? Okay. Full-size planet.
It was Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's who did it. We're mad at Neil.
It is in orbit around the sun, which would be a check for me.
For you? So now you're in the group.
But no, I'm agreeing. It's like, hey, it should be a planet because, number one, that should qualify.
Well, it's got to meet all 3. It's got to meet all 3, so if it meets 1, that's not enough.
It has sufficient mass to assume hydrostatic equilibrium, a nearly round shape.
I'm not up on my Pluto scouting report to see if that
apparently it meets that one. And then the third one, it has, quote, cleared the neighborhood around its orbit. And so apparently Pluto meets only 2 of those criteria, losing out on the third, and this is quoting a government entity. The Library of Congress actually is weighing in on this. In all the billions of years it has lived there, it has not managed to, quote, clear its neighborhood, end quote. Library of Congress. You may wonder what that means, not clearing its neighborhood region of other objects. Sounds like a minesweeper in space. This means that the planet has become gravitationally dominant. There are no other bodies of comparable size other than its own satellites or those otherwise under its gravitational influence in its vicinity of space. So any large body that does not meet these criteria is now classed as a dwarf planet and that includes Pluto, which shares its orbital neighborhood with Kuiper Belt objects such as the Plutinos.
I don't like the name calling. I mean, it's a planet or it's not a planet.
It's like, dude, why do you want to call it a dwarf planet? It's a planet.
It's a planet or it's not a planet, and there's a lot of people. I did not expect intergalactic down here news to get as many people riled up on the Twitch pitch, but it has an irregular orbit of the sun, is what many people are yelling at you in your reading.
Hey, yell at the Library of Congress. That's what they're telling me. Yell at the Library of Congress.
Okay. That's what it says. So anyway, also for your other bit of intergalactic down here news, the Mars rover, I believe, lands today at 2:15, and NASA TV's got it.
7 seconds. Yeah, the 7 minutes of hell where it has to parachute.
7 minutes or 7 seconds? Which one?
No, it's like 7 minutes of hell because it goes in through the atmosphere and you lose all contact, and you're hoping that it lands properly, and all of these elements that are associated with this new round of landing. Because if you didn't launch back in the summer, the Saudis launched, the Chinese launched, and NASA launched. They all launched probes and rockets at Mars. And if you didn't do it back in the summer, you'd lose the window to do this for like a couple of years. And so that's why all of the activity happened in the summer. And so it looks like if you can get through the 7 minutes of radio silence, then hopefully it'll be round 2 for NASA on the surface of Mars.
Okay. I'm intrigued. And there's a big article in the New York Times about it. Thank you, Sean Vergara, for people who are interested. I can only really do just a little bit of intergalactic down here news because I know nada. I'm sorry. I got nothing on it.
Might be watching a little bit of NASA TV today.
We'll find a better host for NASA down here news for next time because I'm no help. I can tell you about transfer fees. I can tell you about scouting reports, and we can talk about the football. We can get into that. There's an article over at MLSsoccer.com from Tom Bogert, which is pretty interesting when you look back at this last window and MLS's involvement in it. It felt like a bigger window for MLS, and it was. It showed up in the numbers. So, tied for 4th in outgoing transfers, the United States, tied with France. Spain had one more outgoing transfer. Brazil had quite a few more, and England had the most in outgoing transfers. Out of those, 4th in outgoing transfers, tied for 4th anyway, 7th in total transfer revenue generated, which is pretty impressive. And there's a couple caveats to the ones ahead of it. One, the Brian Reynolds outgoing transfer, that money's not in yet. That's a good point from Tom Bogert. That's coming in the summer. Also, the Austrian one, which is just ahead of you, is almost exclusively Soboslai's move to RB Leipzig, hitting that release clause. So they had $26.2 million. U.S. had $24.9. France brought in more money. Belgium, Brazil, England, and Italy brought in the most in the transfer market. I think that's only going to continue to grow. It's only going to continue to grow both in volume with numbers of players, but also in the amount of money that teams are generating. And this is a really big deal for the league, especially when you're coming off of a year and another, at least partial year, where you are struggling for revenue. You're going to need to be in the market more. And now I think there's a lot more interest in your product in the market. Jordan Morris, Paul Arriola, both got on the field yesterday for your Swansea boys, correct?
That is correct. They were on the bench. They started 1-0 win over Nottingham Forest, and so still in the top 3, a couple of matches in hand.
Are you watching Mindy Kaling's television programs now?
No.
Why you got to be like that? She's very funny.
I would watch her stand up, but that would require me trying to find it and then go where it is. I don't really watch a whole lot of network television these days. I think
you got to support your club's owner and her projects. So
then I would like I said, I would watch her independent solo stand up stuff. But once again, it would require me trying to find it on the streaming services that we have here in the house. Like I said, I don't watch a whole lot of network television these days. I really don't.
Fair enough. Might be on cable. Anyway, Brian Rodriguez, loaned to Almeria in the 2nd division in Spain. They're trying to get promoted like Swansea. Daryl Dike, Barnsley. they're trying to get promoted. They're a little bit further back, but they are in the mix, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're. Let me dig it up real quick. I know that they're closer to the promotion playoff spots than automatic promotion. Brentford is second. Barnsley is 10th, but there's a 7-point gap from Barnsley in 10th to that fourth promotion playoff spot. Bournemouth in 6th at 49. So Barnsley's got some work to do with a match in hand.
Okay, so they got to get to 6 to get into the playoff.
Yep.
Okay.
It would be Norwich and Brentford would be in the automatic spots right now, but Swansea with 2 matches in hand is a point behind Brentford. You're 4 in the promotion playoff spot. Swansea, Watford, Reading, Bournemouth. So Jessica Charman will be watching with continued interest. But honestly, the key, Barnsley's match in hand, they've got to win it to get within shouting distance, and Swansea's 2 matches in hand could catapult them into a space where they could be actually chasing after Norwich.
I'm intrigued. Do you think Swansea gets into an automatic spot?
Yeah, I think so. Just looking at the matches in hand, frankly, for me, that's the big indicator. And you're looking at 46. So you're at the 2/3 mark of the season right now. I think they do. And then the question is, when it comes to the Jordan Morris loan, do you try to find a way to keep him?
Well, Paul Areola too. You got 2.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So do you keep those 2 guys and have them as a part of a promoted side into the Premier League? And you're getting into the discussion, and I think that when you look at MLS, and you could go ahead and use the examples that we've been discussing with teams like FC Dallas, teams like Philadelphia, teams like Atlanta United, with these academies that have been growing these sides and having all these players. I mean, George Bello, things continue. There's going to be European interest, and there's going to be continued European interest for players like that are brought through with all these players that are coming up into MLS. So, yes, MLS was a player in this last window, but I anticipate that MLS will be even more of a player just because of all the youth that's being developed right now over the next handful of seasons.
One player who might not be coming to MLS is Luis Suarez. Names come up a bunch. He's buddies with Nico Ladero, and in Seattle, his name came up a ton with Miami. He said to ESPN Uruguay, "I don't even see myself in the MLS nor in Qatar. I prefer to remain in the elite, and Atleti is the elite this year, the one that comes and the one that is." He reportedly has an ability to opt out, I think right at the end of the season. I don't think he will because, he's being used really well. He's doing really well. Atleti should still be in this position for next year. So the fact that he is telling local media in Uruguay that he doesn't see himself in MLS, I think you can throw cold water on that possibility. That was probably already fairly cold after Gonzalo Higuain signed in Miami. But Luis Suarez says he doesn't see himself in MLS. That's okay. That's quite fine. That will be fine. I think he stays at Atleti for at least another year because he's kind of killing it, and he probably shouldn't go anywhere just yet.
Yes. Yeah, I know that last time out, Atleti drew Levante, but with what we're seeing with Atleti in league play right now and where they're looking to go, it would be for Luis Suarez to jump, considering all the successes that he's had in this one season with Atletico. It would be where would you go? Where do you think you could go? And B, with the successes that you have, why would you leave?
I don't think he does. They got a game in hand on Real Madrid, who's right behind them. They're even now on games with Barcelona and Sevilla after yesterday's draw. They are 6 points ahead of Real Madrid with that game in hand. They are 9 points ahead of Barcelona, who is even on games in third place. They should be fine. I think the league is still theirs to lose, but yeah, they cracked the door open for Real Madrid to potentially catch them now. Real Madrid and Kylian Mbappe and this whole conversation is going to continue all summer long. There is just no way around it. AS in Spain had a big article about how this could go down, and we've talked about it. He's out of contract at the end of the 21-22 season. This summer is going to be the last opportunity for PSG to cash in if they can't re-sign him. They're going to have to make a decision. Now, there's a couple different ways this could go. PSG's been down this road before, and AS pointed it out with Rabiot, Adrien Rabiot, who's at Juventus. Went through a bunch of contract renewals. They're tried to anyway. The player wanted to become a free agent. Juventus does a really good job of this. Like, yeah, we'll sign you. Yeah, just let your contract run out. We'll sign you. We're not going to pay a transfer fee, but just we'll sign you. We promise you a lot of money. But yeah, we're not going to pay a transfer fee. Just let that contract run. Don't sign a new deal. Just let it run. So it got to the point with Rabiot at PSG that he was banished to the sidelines for 6 months, the final 6 months of his deal. They're not doing that with Mbappe. But it could get tricky if Mbappe does what has been said he will do, which is play his contract out and then choose where he wants to go. You're seeing more players do this. This was never really a typical route, but it's happening more and more and more now. And this summer is going to have a bunch of guys out of contract. You're going to see younger guys do it now. That will dramatically change the business of the game. You won't have transfer fees coming in the same way. I mean, PSG, looking at revenues, and look, maybe they don't need revenues as much. Some other clubs do. Dortmund does when it comes to Haaland, for example. They're going to have to sell before they take $75 million next year when they don't have a choice in a release clause. They're going to have to sell this summer, I think. PSG is maybe a club that could eat the transfer fee that they would have gotten by selling Mbappe, keep him for another year, maybe win a Champions League, and then still try to re-sign him. Maybe they can take that risk. A Manchester City could probably take that risk. There's other clubs who can't. And players are realizing, you know what? We got the power. We don't have to sign a new contract. Just let it run and we can go wherever we want. You're seeing that happen more. It's going to be interesting to see if that happens more with players of Mbappe's age and level.
And as you're talking this through, I mean, this sounds to me almost like the Curt Flood moment for Major League Baseball when it comes to free agency, where the player understands that, you know, he's the one that can dictate where he can go in free agency instead of being beholden to a team.
You're making it more complicated because when Curt Flood and free agency was introduced in baseball, they couldn't become free agents. You didn't have that possibility. Like if your contract ran out, your team held your rights. They didn't have to let you go anywhere. They could just make you sit. You didn't have free agency. It didn't exist. Right?
Yeah, it didn't.
So it's a completely different scenario. It doesn't work. The scenario here is more players doing what Juventus has done. I mean, Juventus has done this thing where they'll sign guys on a free all day long. And they don't spend a bunch of money on transfer fees. They'll make it up to some of these players in their salary to do what they're asking them to do, probably tapping these players up, but you got to prove that.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, for the players, don't sign a new deal. Refuse the transfer unless it's somewhere you want to go. The players are realizing they've got more control. It's not Curt Flood trying to change the rules of the game and the contractual situations. It's the players just realizing, I can let my contract run. I can go where I want. I don't have to play this stupid game. So that's what's going to change it. And if Mbappe does it, you're going to see more young guys sign shorter deals and not sign renewals and say, you know what, I'm out. You're going to see that happen more, I think. And the way this Mbappe deal plays out is going to be fascinating. Real Madrid's going to make a run for him. They are. They're going to put the pressure on. They're going to put the pressure on PSG. They're going to say, look, you're going to get nothing. You need to sell him now. You need to sell him now. We're going to give you X. They're going to try. But Mbappe might say, you know what, unless he wants to go to Real Madrid, which he might. He might say, you know what, no, I'm good. I'm just going to play my contract out, and we'll see what happens at the end of it. Yeah. And that's a tough bit of chicken for PSG to deal with. So we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about other stuff in hour number 2. But before we get there, as John, for some reason, stretches his fingers out, he's going to tell us about Steve Apolinski.
Appolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network for wrongful death and serious injury matters. There's only one place that you need to contact to get your questions answered, and it is Appolinsky and Associates, LLC. How do I get my questions answered, you may ask? Well, a couple different ways that you can. First and foremost, you can shoot Steve an email, steve at aa-legal.com. You can pick up the phone. You can have a landline. Some folks do. Most folks just do it on the cell phone. You can get a free consultation by giving them a call, 404-377-9191. Or you can go on the World Wide Web, large device or small, type in aa-legal.com, hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances you to the homepage. And in addition to all the information that is on the homepage for Appolinsky and Associates, LLC, if those don't answer your questions, there's a pop-up window that pops up, low right-hand corner, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up, and you can get your questions answered that way, 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Once again, large device or small, you can get all your questions answered. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama, recognized as legally by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. For clients in Georgia and Alabama, wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's only one place you need to go. It's Appolinsky and Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
Alrighty. That one went a little long.
Well, yeah, and the music dipped out of the headphones, and so I was trying to figure out where it was, and that was where the layout happened at the end.
I like it. We're making excuses now. Okay.
Of course.
All right. 8.5. Those hands, that pacing, that timing. Nailed it today, except for the end, 9.5.
Wow.
From Matt Wagner, who I hope is not still freaking out. He might be, though. It happens. We all freak out from time to time, Matt. International slots are no reason to freak out. It'll be okay. I promise. 8.125. Minus 2. Minus 2, cancel your landline. Minus 1, trying to not go fast today. Minus 4, too slow. A sad performance like the ugly weather. 2.921.
Wow. Who gave me the 2.921?
That's Sean. He's the East German judge today.
Yes.
I give it a don't worry, be happy out of 10.
Okay.
It's a pretty good song. So that's probably in the 7.5. 9. A 9.654321. Okay. Pretty good today. Definite slippage at the end.
No question.
8, minus 1 for the long pause at the end. 7, a 7.5. Excuses again. 6.7, 7.75. A little bit of a grimace waiting for the .com. But you held your gripe until you finished. Mazzano didn't bash you for that. I didn't
get docked points for complaining about my read until
because you'd finish in the midst of the read, or you'd start griping in the midst of the read, and that's no good.
Well, because I want the timing to be as perfect as possible.
But you don't gripe before the job's done. Happiest of Joe's will do his rating based on songs from now on, out of 10.
Okay.
So I guess I have to guess how good of a song it is and give you my interpretation of the number.
Yes.
That's fine. I can do that. I can play that game. Not bad. Pretty good scores today. You were a little slower, but people seemed to like it. I think generally people liked the faster read, but
because I think I'm angrier in the faster read.
Sometimes it does happen. Speaking of angry, let's get into MLS, the New York Red Bulls, Kaku, Altawan, who Kaku's playing today, by the way.
Delivered an assist on the opener in his Altawan debut, by the way.
So, Jeff Carlisle at ESPN breaks this down a bit. This has been in the ether for a little while. I don't know if the Mars rover has seen it in the intergalactic down here section of the show, but it feels like it's been up there. Kaku had an option at the end of his contract that ran out at the end of last year. The Red Bulls said that they picked up the option. Kaku said he was not officially notified of that option being picked up, and therefore he was a free agent. That's where the argument started. Kaku went and signed with another club, Al Tawan. It gets weird because we have seen players in MLS push back on options in general. This one, you're pushing back in a different way. They are specifically saying that it was not properly executed. And maybe that's just their way of pushing back on options as a whole. I don't know. Maybe it's just they didn't want the option to be picked up. But they are trying to fight on legitimate grounds that the option was not picked up properly. Now, the way the international transfer certificate part of this goes, because this came up, MLS and the Red Bulls asked the U.S. Soccer Federation to not release the ITC because they're saying that they had the player under contract. The way the ITC thing goes, and I've had to deal with this at the NPSL level, players, this is the pass idea is basically what you're thinking of. It's not exactly the same thing because of the percentages. We'll leave the percentage part of it out of it. You have a pass. You have a passport, essentially, is the way to think of it. So your pass, your ITC, your International Transfer Certificate, is held by the federation that you last were contracted to a team in their country. It can get tricky sometimes. And from the NPSL side of things, I mean, we would sign guys who grew up in other countries, came here when they were young. We had to request their ITC from their federation in the country they were born in because it was not held in the United States yet. But they were born somewhere else. So, provisionally, their ITC was held somewhere else. And a lot of times, no problem. Nobody had a contract on the player. Easy, done. In some cases, you didn't get a response. And when you don't get a response, and there's some countries that you send in an ITC request and they aren't going to respond. Found it with a lot of African countries. They just didn't respond. Some Central American countries, I don't know if the Federation's fax machine doesn't work. I don't know if they just don't care. Don't know if they couldn't find anything on the player, so they just don't tell you. No response. When there's no response in 30 days, provisionally the ITC is granted. That still means that you can come back and fight it. Now, in this case, they're going to fight it. But FIFA provisionally allowed the ITC to move forward. That's not going to help MLS and the Red Bull situation. Now, when was Kaku signed by Al Tawan? When was that announced? Because that's the part that I want to make sure I know how this is going. Because if FIFA jumped the 30-day gun here and said, you can have a provisional ITC while we figure this out, it's going to be hard for MLS and the Red Bulls to win this case. If they provisionally granted it because it had been 30 days and there had not been a response, that's typical, and that might not hurt MLS and the Red Bulls case.
Transfermarkt is listing it as the 19th of January.
Well, looks like 30 days, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I thought. And that's I mentioned this in our direct message chat when this came up yesterday because of having gone through this. We would have to backdate, not the paperwork, but think of, okay, our NPSL season is going to start May 1st. We had to be sure to request ITCs on anybody that we were going to sign by April 1st, 30 days before. We had to be sure because if they didn't respond, we knew we'd get it in time for them to play. We had situations where we were going down to the wire. Like, we would have a player registered, but they couldn't play until they got the ITC. And I believe that happened with the Open Cup in 2009. A young player from Honduras who came to this country very young. We requested the ITC. We weren't getting a response. We had his family going to the Federation's offices in Honduras, begging them to send the fax to U.S. Soccer, and we got it a few days before the game so he could play. It's crazy. This 30-day thing is very, very important because of that provisional status. U.S. Soccer did not deny the ITC. MLS and the Red Bulls said, don't send it yet. They didn't deny it, I'm assuming, from what we're connecting these dots on. Because they probably can't definitively say he's under contract. if somebody's under contract, if somebody tries to get shady with a situation like this, the Federation would deny the ITC request. They would say he was under contract to this team. You can't have him until a transfer is done from that team. That came up too. That came up in my life with some Nigerian players for the Atlanta Ruckus back in 1998, which is crazy because these were 16, 17-year-old players that some club in Nigeria refused to allow them to play when they were in Atlanta, said that they had some contract on them or whatever, and the owner of the team just played him anyway, which was probably not the best idea, but he was removed as owner of the team a few weeks later anyway. Yeah, that's a whole other story for another time. So, in this case, now it's going to go to arbitration. It sounds like. I'm saying sounds like because I'm not 100% sure that it does. FIFA is saying this is a domestic issue. MLS and the Red Bulls will be on one side against the MLSPA and Kaku on the other. The arbitrator is the whole situation spelled out in the CBA, which is not public, so we don't know. The Red Bulls told ESPN in a statement, the issuing of the provisional ITC does not change the fact that a valid contract exists between MLS and Kaku. In response to the player's apparent signing with Al Tawan, MLS and the New York Red Bulls have sought to arbitrate the dispute pursuant to Kaku's MLS contract and will take all further necessary action to enforce their rights. MLSPA declined to comment. I think MLS is trying to play hardball here, and the Red Bulls are trying to play hardball. I don't think it's going to work out. I think they're trying to get whatever chunk of money they can possibly get. They're not going to get a normal transfer. Kaku's not coming back. At this point, you don't want Kaku to come back. It's even harder now that he's played and the ITC is over there. You've got to prove now that you have that valid contract, and there is no question about it. Options are not a typical thing worldwide. But in this case, again, this is from what we know publicly, Kaku and his agent are saying it's not even the option that they are saying is illegal, which has come up before in other players' situations. He's saying that they didn't properly execute it. They didn't properly execute the option to keep him under contract, so he was available on a free. Al Tawan believed that to be the case because they signed him. I don't think he's back in the Red Bulls, and I don't think they get any money. I think this one goes away quietly after this provisional ITC being sent. I just don't see how it goes down for them to get him back. And why would you want him back at this point? He doesn't want to be there.
Yeah. Yes.
So if they're just trying to get a little bit of money, all right, maybe you get some chump changes to make it go away, but Al Tawan's probably going to fight it, and they don't even have to fight anything right now. Right now, they can just sit back and watch. They can play the player. MLS is going to fight it out with the MLSPA and Kaku's people, and the Red Bulls are going to be all fighting it out. Al Tawan's just sitting back waiting, playing the player, and then if they end up having to give a little bit of chump change, they'll give a little bit of chump change, but the player's not coming back. The Red Bulls have completely botched this whole situation from day one. They should have sold him to Club America when there was interest initially. A year ago.
Yeah.
At least a year ago, maybe longer. It's been a bad signing. They paid a lot of money for him. They have completely botched all of it. And this is embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the Red Bulls. It's embarrassing for the league. They shouldn't even be fighting at this point. It should quietly go away now. I was shocked by this statement because I don't think they win anything.
Because it was, €5.5 million, the transfer to bring him in from Huracan. And...
Well, it wasn't Euro. It was Huracan in Argentina.
Right. And so... But I'm you know...
You got to go to Transfermarkt US, John, to get dollars.
I'm just used to going to the mothership.
Yeah, you got to go to the U.S. one. I don't think it was 12 million as well, Chara says. I think it was more in the 8 to 9 region of U.S. dollars, if I remember correctly. Anyway, I mean, it's still a lot of money, and they did not get the return for him on the field, and they're not getting a return for him now. They've completely botched the situation, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah, and it's why would you want him back? He doesn't want to be there. You've messed this up in the past.
No, hold on. They don't want him back. They don't want him back. They want money.
Yeah.
Because why would you want him back? He doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, he didn't want to be
they
there.
don't want him back.
You invested $6 million to bring him in the first place.
You invested more than that.
And then all these opportunities, well, if you call Club America all these opportunities, but
There were others.
But you had a chance to at least recoup some of your investment. This whole thing seems to be just incredibly reactionary from my perspective. It's like, okay, none of this is done right. So what we're going to do here at the end is try to get something back and try to get some minimal, part of our investment back on this whole thing. It's just like they waited too long, and now that they're this deep into it, it's like, okay, we're just going to try and go all in and try to get something back. It just seems like if you had done things from the beginning, when it comes to Kaku, when folks were interested, you wouldn't have gotten yourself into this mess that you're currently in now.
You're trying to put a whole lot more to this than anything else. They screwed up, first off. They signed a player that was not the fit. They wanted to press. He's a 10. He's a playmaker. He doesn't want press. It's not his game. That never worked. Then you had to try to accommodate him. They brought him in to be the guy that when you get into the postseason and teams aren't going to allow you to just press and they sit back more, he could break things down. It never worked. It never fit. He was never comfortable. It never worked out. They should have sold him. They didn't. He got more and more unhappy. There was all kinds of crazy accusations about furniture and apartments and this and that and madness. They should have sold him. They didn't. It's looked embarrassing for a while. It got more embarrassing with this situation. The ITC is the key here, and I know people are talking about transfer paperwork. It's not quite that simple. So when it gets to this stage, to allow the ITC to go, FIFA is saying, we don't believe he is under contract. We are giving the provisional clearance because the federation that this player was in did not provide the clearance. That's how the ITC system works. 30 days, there's no response, it's provisionally granted. It can still be fought, and it sounds like that's what MLS and the Red Bulls are talking about doing. But FIFA is saying, by doing that they don't believe he's under contract to the New York Red Bulls and MLS. Because if they believed he was under contract, they would not allow him to play elsewhere under another contract. That's the important element here. Now, MLS and the Red Bulls have to prove he is under contract. Okay. This is going to be difficult. Kaku and his agents claimed in December, and this came up in teases. Back then, it got spread all over the place, but it came up in teases maybe originally, that Kaku and his people believed the option was not picked up, and he was a free agent as of January 1st. He was not duly notified by New York Red Bulls for the extension of his relationship, is how it is translated. That's what his legal advisors have said. There were Mexican teams that were involved in him. MLS and Red Bulls had asked for very high transfer fees for him when these things had come up before. They didn't get them. It keeps coming back to me for that ITC situation, because if they allowed him to go, if they said, we're going to let the provisional pass go, we don't think you're under contract, now you've got to prove that. That changes the paradigm here. And I don't think they pull it off, and I don't think they get anything for it, and I think they just get embarrassment. It's a problem. They need to let this go. They should have let it go before. They should have sold him before, and now at this point, you're screwed. Now, this has come up before. Kyle Larin was involved in a situation like this. Fabian Castillo was involved in a situation like this where they left, and they forced a deal to get done. I think Kaku's gone, and I don't think they're getting a dime for him. I think they've completely and utterly blown it, and it's an embarrassment. So we will see.
Yeah, I mean, when the international governing body sits there and endorses an ITC, that to me would be the trigger in all of this. It's like, look, the top of the ladder is telling you You got an ITC, you're good.
It's not just that, because the 30-day thing, that's policy. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
It's the fact that they didn't stop it because they believe he's under contract. That's the issue here. Is if MLS, and I don't know why they haven't. This is the thing that's confusing for me. If MLS and the Red Bulls wanted to deny the pass being given, if they're just telling U.S. Soccer just slow walk it, that's just being a jerk. If they wanted to deny it, they can show the contract and say, this is the contract. He is under contract to us. This is why you don't give his ITC away. Here. Why haven't they done that in 30 days?
Yeah.
If they've got paperwork and it's done, then why haven't they showed that? If they just slow walked it to make him sit for 30 days, that's just being a jerk.
Yeah.
Which you can do. You can absolutely do.
Mm-hmm.
And U.S. Soccer went along with it. But if they haven't proven that he's under contract at this point, I don't think they're going to all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's a mess. It looks really bad. And this stuff gets around. Just like we talk about with Atlanta United, treating players right when they want to go. Carlos Carmona wanted to go. He wanted to be closer to home. Wife was having a child. He had an opportunity to go to Colo Colo, who was not fighting for staying alive at that point, and was in a better position. He had a chance to go. Club didn't want to do it. They found a way to get it done. That stuff is great, and that stuff gets around too. But when you do this, it's a mess. 3TH, I don't think it's that. This is different. This is a completely... Oh, sorry, 3TH talking about the Atlanta United side. Sorry. We'll see what Red Bulls end up doing here, but I think they get nada. I think they get nothing for it. And no, I don't really hate it when they get embarrassed. But this embarrasses the league to a degree too. And it's something the league has to be a little more careful about. If the Red Bulls can't manage their own stuff properly, don't help them. They should have sold him before. And if they didn't want to, the league should have said, look, you need to sell him now, because this is not working for any of us. Get it done. That's where the league maybe should have had a little bit heavier hand on the Red Bull side. Clown show, absolutely. Mm-hmm. What else is up, John?
Let's see.
You don't know.
Well, no, but I mean, on the Twitters.
What's on the Twitters?
Well, Chris Hutchison gives us a bit of a bio with Pluto from the first hour. Tafka says that this is why you, sir, are so amazing.
What did I do?
Color commentators and podcasters can speak to the deep rules and practices of ITC transactions. Answer 1.
I did it. I've done the ITCs. It's craziness. I mean, I talked to the English FA to get a player's ITC done who had played in like schoolboy stuff, and I'm like, we need this done like today. Can you get this done? Can you fax this over to US Soccer today? We play tomorrow. I got to have this guy in the league system by tomorrow. Can you do this, please? And they're like, yeah, no problem. It's fine. I'll fax it right now. And then we've tried to get to FAs in Sierra Leone, and you're not getting anybody from an FA in Sierra Leone.
What's a phone call like?
You're not calling them. You're not calling them, John. There's no phone number that works to call Sierra Leone's FA. I'm not calling them.
Well, then what's that communication like?
John. You're getting way too excited about something that doesn't exist. The way this goes down, generally, is you go to US Soccer and you say, here is the paperwork. I am requesting the ITC for this player. Okay. You fax it to them. They see it. They're like, okay, we have all the information here. Now we are faxing it to the country where the ITC is being held. And then you sit and wait. That's it. Now, in cases where you had some kind of a connection, you could try to call a club. If the player had family in that country, they would be talking to their family and trying to put pressure on the FA to send in the paperwork, stuff like that. But the English one, luckily, I speak English, so I was able to find a number and make a call and get it done. But in general, that wasn't how it went. That was kind of rare. So that happened once. But I've just been through the ITC process and how complicated it can be. This paperwork stuff is tough. We had it, or at least I helped facilitate it a little bit for the Silverbacks when they brought Abdul Bangura back from Sweden, because you had a transfer situation, but then you also had the ITC component to it, and I think there was an issue on his transfer card with his time here that got him flagged before he went to Sweden because he was with the NPSL, and somebody on that league side didn't fill out the paperwork properly. And this has come up with U.S. youth players. Remember the whole solidarity payment and training payment and clubs requesting it, but then it was actually said that the paperwork side of it was not being done properly at U.S. Soccer, and they couldn't track who played where for how long in X and Y and Z. I ran into it with Bangura. Like, we had to submit paperwork to FIFA to say, he played for us, here is his contract, it was amateur. Here is his signing with us, here is when he was registered with us. He's good, he was clear to go to Sweden, he's clear to come back from Sweden, all is good. This stuff's tricky, and this is why clubs have administrators and administrative staff and lawyers, and this is why the Federation has a whole staff that deals with registration and international paperwork, and it can get really tough at certain parts of the year where, you know, the Federation office is not huge with this group, and you're needing somebody to get to you quickly, and they're dealing with 20 other clubs in the same situation, so it's all tough. But yeah, it's complicated stuff, and if you don't know the back end of it, you can get it wrong pretty easily.
Breaking news sounder, please.
Breaking news sounder, please. Here.
Sports Business Daily reports that DoorDash has agreed to become the jersey sponsor for Angel City, which will begin play next year in the NWSL. Sources peg the 5-year pact as a high 7-figure deal, making it the NWSL's largest jersey sponsorship. The deal also includes, and this is from Terry Lefton, signage, radio, TV, social, and digital inventory Nike jerseys with the DoorDash logos expected at retail this summer. Angel City has a requirement that 10% of every sponsorship be tied to charitable causes. Accordingly, DoorDash will address local hunger through a tie-in with CARE. We'll try to deliver 250,000 meals to the needy in the sponsorship's first year. DoorDash today will donate $5 to CARE per order from a list of participating LA area women-owned restaurants up to $15,000.
Excellent!
Pretty cool.
So DoorDash will be on the front of the Angel City jerseys when they come into the NWSL.
Woo!
Good stuff. SheBelieves Cup is tonight, that was why I was kind of leaning in that direction.
Okay. We'll get into more on MLS front in a minute then. And we'll get into the rumor on Giannetti that people have asked about on the Twitch pitch as well. We'll talk about that. SheBelieves starts today, 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Is that our correct match kickoff times?
Efforting. I will check with FS1.
Anyway. SheBelieves Cup, United States, Canada, Brazil, Argentina. Was going to be Japan. Japan had to pull out due to COVID stuff. It is Argentina. Argentina hasn't played an international match in almost 15 months. That's not good. It's a good opportunity for them, but that's not good. They're going to struggle here. They went to the World Cup in 19, and they haven't played since. And that's, again, or right after that, they played a few games that fall. It's not good. Canada's team is not full. No Kadisha Buchanan, no Ashley Lawrence, no Jordan Hutima. You don't have Alana Cook for the U.S. You don't have Formiga and Luana from Brazil because of the quarantine issues. Remember, clubs could deny call-ups for official competitions, and I think SheBelieves got that opportunity on the women's side. They could deny it if players had to quarantine when they came back or when they arrived in a place. None of that. No Christine Sinclair either for Canada. Canada's not at full strength. The U.S. isn't at full strength either, but they're closer to it. No Tobin Heath, out for a couple more months, likely injury at Manchester United. Sam Mewis was injured against Colombia on January 22nd, rehabbing at Manchester City. Kelly O'Hara is questionable. It's not a knock, it's a bump, according to Vlatko Andonovski. It's new terminology. I like it. He's going to mix this group up a little bit. The U.S. is the favorite, clear favorite with Canada not at full strength. And Brazil not at full strength, and Argentina nowhere near the level of Japan. It's going to be an opportunity to see some different players. It's going to be an opportunity to get Alex Morgan back into the group. It's going to be an opportunity to get Kristen Press back into the group. Casey Murphy, backup goalkeeper, had to sit out the January camp as well. You're going to get to see some different players in different combinations. It'll be better competition than the games against Colombia were, but it's not going to be as good of a competition as you would like. But when you look at the women's game worldwide, it could be worse. The Tournoi de France, the second edition of that, which is essentially their version of this, they couldn't do it. Iceland and Norway had to withdraw. So you've got a lot of top teams who can't play right now on the women's side. At least the U.S. is getting games, and at least they're getting to see some different combinations of players. I'm looking for that. I mean, they should be able to roll through this and win 3 games. If they don't, there's a problem. I'm looking for individual performances. I'm looking to see who is in a different position on the depth chart in terms of their level at the end of this week, because it'll be 3 games in 7 days. It's like an Olympic group stage. I want to see who is in a different position on the roster, not on the field, in terms of their standing in the roster at the end of this. Who has improved their stock? Who has maybe saw their stock slide a little bit? That's what I'm looking for at the end of it.
4 o'clock and 7 o'clock, FS1, 2 to NA, 2 to NA.TV. I think Jake Zivin and Danielle Slayton are calling the 4 o'clock match of Brazil and Argentina. JP and Ellie Wagner doing the 7 o'clock with USA and Canada.
Do you have numbers on these games?
Do I have numbers on them? They're not where I normally get them, but I can search them up quickly.
Search them up quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Couple things from the Twitch pitch on this and on the women's soccer as a whole. Katie Weaver said Angel City with big PR at the Aussie Open, by the way. North Carolina Courage as well. Very cool. Love to see Angel City getting this kind of attention. Wow, Chara said Angel City gets a sponsor and Inter Miami can't. Yeah, there's that. Vlatko, according to Jason Nix, Vlatko is going to take this team to a new level. I agree. I think Jill Ellis did a great job with a talented team. Tactically, philosophically, meh. I thought they were a little fortunate in the last 2 World Cups. I think the best lineup kind of fell into her lap in 2015, and she ran with it, and that's a credit to being a good coach and adjusting. But they didn't look great in the group stage. Then in 2019, they were not as dominant as you might think. I think England outplayed them in the semifinal. I think England was a little unlucky in that match. They had more talent. You had Megan Rapinoe in the form of her life in the World Cup in 19, and that helped. You had Sam Mewis. You had Julie Ertz. You had Rose Lavelle emerging. You had incredible talent. But now you're getting other countries that the talent gap is not as far as it used to be. You need somebody who's going to take this group to another level with the way they play. They have to have an identity. They haven't really had one outside of having great players and great athletes. Vlatko's going to give them that. He's got to stick to that. And now he's got some time. It's a little bit weird. The cycle's changed because normally you've got that Olympics a year after the World Cup, and then you've got 3 years, and you see a new group emerge. This one's a little different because it got pushed back a year, so you're going to have 2 years before the next World Cup. Not a dramatic change, but does it affect somebody like Rapinoe who might want to stick around now and try to compete for that next World Cup? Maybe Carly Lloyd because she's bionic, it seems like, and continues to play at a high level. I think NWSL needs to continue to improve to develop more players and give more options. I like that the player pool requirements are starting to change more, and he can call in more players. He's not tied to a small number of players that he has to continue to call in because they're on contract with the U.S. Soccer Federation. That has to continue to change. I want to keep seeing Lynn Williams. I think Lynn Williams is one of the top players in this country right now. She needs to continue to play. I got so frustrated with her not getting opportunities under Jill Ellis. I think Vlatko's going to get this team playing better soccer. It doesn't mean they win more because they've won a lot, but I think they're going to play better, and it's going to keep stretching the gap because that gap is a lot closer than it's ever been on the women's side. You've got to have the soccer philosophy, the play model to back up having the talent, or you're going to get passed by teams that have that. We're seeing the Netherlands. They got to their first final. We're seeing Spain. England is now absolutely a contender with some great talent. France has been there for a while. Germany's been there for a while. Brazil with Pia Sundhage trying to reload now. You've got talent and more coming. Italy was a surprise in 2019. You're seeing more and more come up and push and develop. The U.S. has to continue to develop to stay on top.
Your juice box numbers for the 4 o'clock game: Brazil and Argentina. Brazil a minus 2,500. Your draw is a plus 1075, and Argentina is north of plus 3,000, almost plus 3,100. The U.S. a minus 714 in the composite at our friends at Odds Portal. The draw is a plus 631, and Canada to win is a plus 1,400. Early numbers on the Pia Sundhage match on the weekend with the U.S. The U.S. a minus 323. The draw is a plus 405, and Brazil is a plus 630.
What were those Argentina numbers today again?
Plus 3067.
Put a stupid juice box in there. Why not? Your dancing is really strange to these things.
Always searching for the 2s and 4s, my friend.
Jeez, I'm going to get you some new lines, too. Yeah, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. But it's exciting for them to get this opportunity. And, they have some very talented players. Spain has some very talented players. I think the game's different. And, there's such an athletic gap with the U.S. players and some of these others, even when you're playing a team that is more technical. And you've got some incredibly technical players in Argentina and Colombia and Spain, but they don't have the same pace. They don't have the same size. They don't have the same strength. It's tough to bridge that gap. And the U.S. has been able to use that to their advantage. And yes, you want to win games. That's what you do. But that technical gap has to get better on the U.S. side. You have to get better technically. And you're going to have to get better tactically, because the game can't just be direct and use pace and use strength. You're getting teams that know how to play against that now, and they have the technical ability to build out of the back against pressure, and they're causing you problems. I thought Spain was, and I agree with Jason Nix, Spain was really interesting in the last World Cup because they've come so far so fast. I agree with Jason. England is the one that has that combination that is the closest right now to push the U.S. Now, they fell off after the World Cup, and we talked about it on Written on the Pitch with Jessica Charman this week. Phil Neville was going to go. He was out of contract after the Olympics, which were originally scheduled for 2020. I think he was checked out after the World Cup. They fell off in a big way. They needed to make the change, and ultimately they have. That's not to say Phil Neville did a bad job with England. I think he developed them and got them to a much better place. And they were not just a power kind of team. Like, they played, and they had a way of playing. 4-3-3, one holding midfielder, two central midfielders that hit those half spaces. A lot of width out wide, and you had different kinds of wingers. You had some that liked to go 1v1. You had some that stretched the field and put in crosses. I mean, you had a really good team, and you had Lucy Bronze, who's one of the best players in the world at right back, getting forward, so you could you could adjust and attack teams that way. So they are the team that I think is the closest. But I want to see how Spain, the Netherlands, especially those two, bridge that gap. France is right there, Germany's right there too, but Spain and the Netherlands feel like the two that could make the biggest jump. So we will see. I hope the U.S. plays better soccer going forward. It's not just individualism and power. I hope we see more from that. I think Vlatko is going to bring that.
Yeah. BBC quickly, speaking of women's soccer, a number of Leicester City players have been fined by the club after breaking coronavirus protocols while attending a party last weekend. BBC Sport understands up to 10 members of the women's first team attended a party hosted by one of their players. Several of the men's under-23 squad also believed to have attended, alongside two players from the women's Super League side, Birmingham City. Around 20 people believed to have been at the party.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Leicester City, the women's championship leaders, believed to have fined several players, but they're expected to return to training this week as normal, providing they test negative. for COVID-19. First, understood Birmingham's players have been suspended from all club activity for 10 days, including training, matches, and contact with other members. They will self-isolate for 5 days before taking a coronavirus test.
Follow the protocols, por favor.
Mm-hmm.
Por favor. Follow the protocols, please, please, please.
Yes. We haven't talked about the Premier League yet from yesterday with Manchester City and Everton and all that stuff.
Okay, we'll talk about it really fast. Manchester City won.
Yes.
Carlo Ancelotti said, we couldn't really compete with them. Almost impossible. 10-point lead, 14 matches remaining. Manchester City's got the title. You can go ahead and start carving it on. He said they are the best team. They have quality, power, and belief. It's very difficult to compete with them. Everton competed with them pretty well, but Manchester City is a machine at this point.
It's too good. Too good.
Fulham got a point, as they are prone to do, at Burnley. I think you called that. Fulham's got to find some wins here at some point. This was one that I thought they could get. They did not. And, they're still alive. And, they're the one that can get out of the relegation spots. But you got to find 3 here somewhere along the line, unless Newcastle's going to keep losing, which, Alex Bassine, is definitely a possibility.
Yep. Margin's down to 6 with 14 to play. And I still think that, like we were talking yesterday, I still think that game at the last day on decision day, I still think that's going to mean something. I really do.
I'm not sure that it will, based off the way we picked it out. I think the gap will be just a little bit too big. But Fulham's got to find wins to make that happen.
Yeah.
They've got to find 3 points here somewhere to make that happen in some of these places. I'm sorry, Alex. I'm sorry. It's just, it's reality. Yeah. One more on the women's side. Burns says, I think England has the strongest women's national team other than the U.S. Their up-and-comers are very strong. Stanway, Chloe Kelly, Rachel Daly. They could give the U.S. a run. I totally agree. And I want to see what they do. Not so much Olympics because it's Team GB and it's kind of weird and it's political and all that. I want to see what they do after that when they get the manager from the Netherlands coming over, Wiegman, and what she does with that group. Because she's going to come in and probably, and this is an assumption based off what we saw from the Netherlands and what we know of Dutch managers, she's going to build on that 4-3-3 idea that Phil Neville had them playing and potentially take it to another level. England has the players to do it. They've got the players to really make that difficult. It's the players in the half spaces for me that if you've got transformational talents in those spots, you force a team to have to play 2 holding midfielders and take a player away from their attack to deal with it. You force them to drop an extra player. And that's game-changing. It doesn't sound like much, but it is. Otherwise, you're rolling the dice and playing straight up, 4v4, 5v5, and you don't want to do that defensively, not if you want to win games. So if you've got 2 players in those half spaces, you can be dangerous. Let's take that over to Atlanta United. That's the way that I expect to see Atlanta United play this season, primarily, is in a 4-3-3 with 1 holding midfielder, 2 more attacking central midfielders. And I know a lot of people are saying, it's this player, it's Joseph. Like, these are the ones that matter. Those 2 attacking midfielders are the ones that can really flip the game because you can force the other team to have to drop an extra player deeper. And if you're Gabriel Heinze, that's what you're looking for. You want more players forward. You want to be able to attack with 5. You want to make the other team defend with 6. That means they're attacking with 4. You're good with that. You want them to attack with 3 or 2. You want them to attack with as few numbers as possible because that allows you to more comfortably defend. So Marcelino Moreno is going to be one of those players. I think he's a perfect fit for the idea. You give him space to operate in. He can win the 1v1s. He can create shots and goals for others. And I think Emerson Hyndman could really flourish in a situation like that. You got to get him back to full fitness. You got to get him into this flow and this way of playing, but I think he can fit. And I think you can also change the look of the team based off the opponent. If you get Franco Ibarra, who we're all expecting to be announced here at any point, he's more disruptive. He's more defensive. You see teams that play a more disruptive player higher up the park. Maybe he's the one that makes the team's press just incredibly difficult. Maybe he's the one that, instead of it being a true 1 behind 2, it's a little bit of staggered, like 1-1-1, where Ibarra can drop deeper against a team that likes to get a second midfielder forward, but can give you that push forward because he can cover that ground. That's a little bit different kind of game than Heineman's game. If you have a team pinned in more, Heineman can pick out spaces and do really well. It's all going to be interesting, but I think this idea, and I keep cautioning you guys, and I will continue to do it. This idea that Atlanta United will play the same formation in the same 11 every game is incorrect. It's not going to happen. They will adjust formationally based off the opponent. They won't adjust philosophy. They won't adjust principles. They will adjust formation because that's a tactic. They will adjust personnel. They're going to play the same way. That's not going to change. You don't have to play the same 11 in the same formation. The formation is not the tactic. The formation is just not the tactic. It's the philosophy. It's and when I say the tactic, it's because people lump tactics in with philosophy and principles and play model and all that. Tactics are, we play this formation because they're weak in this spot. Or they're going to play 2 forwards, so we're going to play 3 center backs to have 1 extra person. That's a tactic. That's a temporary. Philosophy and principles are permanent. And that's what you're looking for here. So you're going to see changes. And you're going to see this team look differently at times. And that's okay. Don't overreact to this stuff, please. Don't. And yes, Ezequiel Barco is going to play plenty. And yes, Eric Lopez could play plenty. And yes, you could have a bunch of players who play and start double-digit games. Yeah, absolutely. Because when players are playing well, they're going to continue to get time. And when players train well, they're going to get time. These things are going to happen. So don't overreact. Don't freak out.
One other thing to catch us up on Twitter, when we were talking about the Angel City deal, Tafka wanted to know, by comparison, how much was the deal with American Family Insurance worth for Atlanta United?
Never come out. Don't know. Couldn't tell you. It's never been. A number has never publicly come out.
Yeah, because both Tafka and Thomas Jawin are saying that a deal like this, a DoorDash deal with Angel City, is huge for the NWSL. Yeah,
it's big for the NWSL. I don't think it's in American Family Insurance, Atlanta United range. I don't. I think it's probably the best or one of the best in the NWSL. I don't think it's at this range because most people have said that the American Family Insurance deal is one of the biggest in MLS. That's just the only thing that we've really heard. So NWSL, front of the shirts are not getting the same figures. It's just the return on investment's not the same. So it's just not going to happen. Chris Ashley about philosophy and the way this team's going to play says it's very Bielsa-like. If folks want to dip into some of that philosophy, I cannot recommend reading some of Phil Hayes' Leeds coverage on The Athletic enough. It's not purely, though. And again, this is something that I know the easy thing to say is he is the Bielsa guy, and he's probably the most Bielsa guy. Outside of, I don't know, maybe Hernan Losada, he might be even more Bielsa-like. Heinze's got a lot of Pep Guardiola in him. A whole lot of Pep Guardiola in him, and he studies that. He's also got a lot of Louis van Gaal in him because, again, this philosophy of positional play goes back to Rinus Michels. It goes back to Johan Cruyff. It goes back to Barcelona. It goes to Pep. It goes to Louis van Gaal, who had his spin on it, which, yes, Frank de Boer was influenced by Louis van Gaal quite a bit, as well as Johan Cruyff. That's why this isn't a crazy hire, because positional play is that idea, and it's something Atlanta United's been doing from day one. The tempo, the pressing when you lose possession, those are the elements that will be different here. The tempo of pressing, the tempo defensively is what I'm talking about. Patience in possession will happen this year. Don't start yelling about a pass backwards. It'll be okay. It's going to happen, too, because you don't want to give the ball up. You know, the number one thing that I have consistently seen Gabriel Heinze say after matches at Vélez from my research, we want the ball. We want the ball. We want the ball. We want the ball. We don't have the ball. We're going to fight like hell to get the ball back. We want the ball. We want the ball. we want the ball. If you have the ball and you want the ball and you don't want to lose the ball, you don't get reckless with the ball. Period. So, I mean, in the final third, are they going to take chances? Of course they are. But they're not going to just bomb it long to play fast. Where they're going to play fast is defensively when they lose possession. It is basically like an accordion. When you have the ball, it's as wide as it can be. You want the wingers wide. You want to stretch the field wide. You want to create channels for players to play in. When you don't have the ball, you want to condense it top to bottom, vertically. You want your back line up as very high as possible. You want to squeeze the game when you don't have the ball because you want it back. Also, when you win it back in those situations, you could be putting yourself into a great position to go to goal. This is the big difference between the New York Red Bull style of pressing, which is not at all what Atlanta United's going to do, and what I'm expecting out of Atlanta United. The Red Bulls don't want the ball. They don't want the ball. So what do they do when they get the ball? Play it long. They go direct. Why? Because they might get something out of it. You're creating a 50-50 maybe, or a 40-60, or a 30-70, or whatever. Okay, maybe Brian White, maybe Tom Barlow can go fight, win that ball, win it down, knock it over to Caden Clark, make something happen. That'll happen sometimes, sure. Low percentage, though. Why do you do that? Because you are activating your way to create chances, pressing. Atlanta United is not going to do that. They're not just going to play it long to create a press. They're going to try to work the ball to create opportunities in a positional play sense. Very Manchester City-esque. Very old-school Barcelona-esque. Very Dutch-esque. They're going to work the ball to create opportunities. They're going to work on the right side to hit somebody on the left going to goal, or vice versa. They're going to work for that. Second idea is where you lose possession and you immediately activate that press to win it back because you want the ball back. Where you win the ball back might give you a 2v1 or a 3v2, and you can immediately go to goal. But that's not plan A. For the Red Bulls, that's plan A, B, C, D. Plan E was when things broke down and you had to actually build up play. You try to find Kaku. Well, now you got to go a lot farther away to find him. So for Atlanta United, plan A is going to be building up possession, playing out of the back, building up, starting attacks the right way. It's going to happen. Anyway, okay, everybody's yelling at me to talk about the Giannetti rumor. Felipe Cardenas tweeted this out. It hasn't been talked about independently from anybody in South America yet. I've been checking. Giannetti's been linked to Sporting Kansas City in the past. This is center back from Vélez. Definitely fits the system. Definitely knows what Gabriel Heinze wants out of his center backs. There's no question about any of that. He has not been linked with a move lately out of Vélez. Felipe's post was the first one about it, and Felipe said he had sources that said that Atlanta was looking at him. I don't remember the exact terminology. Did not say anything about having made an offer yet. That's the key. But it has not been picked up on by Cesar Luis Merlo or Grova or any of those sources yet. The people who've picked up on it have referenced back to Felipe's post. It's not saying that Felipe doesn't have the right information. I don't know. I don't do. That's not my job. I don't do that stuff. But it hasn't progressed yet to the next level. He played last night for Vélez in the Copa Argentina. So if a move was imminent, I don't know if he would have played last night. Could a move happen? Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he's a player that is known to the manager. He fits a position that you were just trying to get. Absolutely, a move makes sense. He's cheaper than Luis Abram too. Abram is valued at just over $7 million on transfer marks. Giannetti is more than David Martinez was, but he's a more established player, so it's not really a shock. I don't know what the numbers would be. With Giannetti being linked to MLS before, again, that adds to this making sense. But until it gets to a point that you're hearing Vélez talk about it, or people at Vélez talk about it, or they're being asked about it, which, trust me, somebody will stick a microphone in the manager's face or in the sporting director's face and say, hey, what about this? Until you get something like that, I think we're kind of waiting. Are they targeting him? Yeah, and no, you don't need a left foot. Thomas Jewin's panicking and putting smiley faces up. He can just be one-footed. He can have a crutch on the left side. It'll be okay. They'll be all right. Kidding. Here's the deal. I'll go back and look at last night, for example, in the Copa Argentina. Let me see if I've got the full lineup for Velez's win. That was a comfortable one over Camioneros, a third division team. All right, where are we? Of course, it doesn't come up immediately, but I can get to it quickly. So you got another Copa Argentina match tonight. San Lorenzo plays. We'll get into that in a minute. But last night it was Velez 3-1. They went out 3-0. They were completely fine here. And, of course, I don't have the full lineup on this site. But Giannetti was starting in that match. Did he play the full 90? Yes, he did. We'll go back and look at other Velez matches. Let's see if he played on the weekend. In the Copa de la Liga, they played Newell's, and they won 1-0 in their debut in this edition of the competition. And Giannetti played on the right side of Luis Abram, so mass hysteria, freak out. He played very well in that game. He's rated as a 7.6 at Sofa Score. He had 6 clearances, 3 interceptions, 3 tackles. Duels, he won 4 of 4 on the ground. He won 2 of 3 in the air, so that's 6 of 7 in total. That's pretty freaking good. 63 touches. He was 45 of 48 on his passing. What I saw of that game, Newell's wasn't exactly pressing high, so it's a lot of easier passes, but still, that's very, very good. Only 1 of 2 on long balls, again, because he didn't have to go long very often. He wasn't pressed. Giannetti is a very talented 27-year-old center back. He is played on the right side primarily, and I'll go back to last season's Copa de la Liga to make sure, but Abram has played on the left, so Giannetti's played on the right. Doesn't mean Giannetti can't play on the left. He just hasn't because there's been a player there playing in that position. He started 7 games in the Copa Diego Armando Maradona, which was the precursor to the Copa de la Liga right now. Basic numbers on him, passing 89%. Not a ton of passes in the opposition half. He's a center back, no surprise. Doesn't hit a ton of long balls, 2.6 per game, 53% accuracy on him. That's a little bit lower, but not crazy. 2.1 interceptions per game, almost a tackle per game. Those are good numbers. 4.3 clearances per game. He was part of 3 clean sheets. Duels on the ground, he was winning at 59%. Aerial duels, very good. He's winning at 75%. That's quite good. So he fits. He's a Velez guy through and through. He debuted with the first team in 2015. He checks the boxes. The only box he doesn't check is playing on the left as a lefty. That's it. That's the only one he doesn't check. So doesn't mean you can't make it work, though. You see it a lot because there's not a ton of left-footed center backs that come in a premium. Doesn't mean he can't do it. It means right now he's not. So would he be a guy? Yeah, he could. Absolutely. I'd be somewhat surprised if they went a little bit older because generally they've went with young guys who I think Gabriel Heinze wants to mold and coach up. But if you go get somebody that he's already done that with, then yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A 27-year-old who Heinze had for 2.5 years at Velez would make a lot of sense.
Velez 670 radio after the match last night said in their Twitter account, and this is through Google Translate, that Gabriel Heinze asked Lautaro Giannetti to reinforce Atlanta United in the U.S. The pass market of that country closes March 1st, and it links to their post-game show. They have 5,000 followers on Twitter, so take it for what it's worth.
They said Lucas Hansen was coming as well. Just saying. That's not independent reporting. Right. That could be referencing Felipe's post without referencing Felipe's post. Because a lot of people do that, and it's not cool to say, like, yeah, this is going to happen. Somebody else tweeted it who has more clout and has more cachet and might have actually done the legwork to find the sources.
Yeah.
Somebody smaller might say, like, yeah, this is going to happen, and not reference it, not give that hat tip, give that to. So there's nothing there to go on. The pass market part is actually incorrect. So anyway, that's true, by the way. I'm not making that up.
No.
You're just like, yeah. Like, no,
I'm
it's
agreeing
accurate.
with you.
Okay, it's accurate.
Yeah.
They could be right. They could have seen Felipe's post and said what they said, which is pretty basic. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Have you seen, and this is while you were discussing things, I went into the schedules quickly, and I have seen nothing from CONCACAF in and of itself, but some folks had mentioned this on our Twitter feed, that the folks at the Google have given dates to CONCACAF Champions League matchups involving Atlanta United and Alajuelense. And I have seen nothing else to back this up, but their scheduling has it listed on the 7th and the 14th, and folks are asking questions. I haven't seen anything on the CONCACAF side of things or any other sourcing, but the calendar's listing it as the 7th and the 14th.
It could be. Google putting something in doesn't necessarily make it accurate. What day of the week is the 7th?
April 7th.
Because they might have just slotted everything in on the first day that it could have been held.
Let's see. I can get a 2021 erasable calendar.
Good job.
The 7th is the Wednesdays.
Oh, they could have just put it. Are they all on the Wednesdays? Did they put all of the 2021 CONCACAF Champions League games on Wednesday at 8 o'clock?
No times given so far, but the two that I have researched, Atlanta United Alajuelense and Atletico Pantoja Monterrey, were both given the Wednesdays.
There's a much easier way to do that, John. You type in 2021 CONCACAF Champions League, and Google has not put those games up like they normally do just yet. Let's take 2021 off, and let's see if they have done it. No, they're not lumping it in the same way just yet. That could just be a placeholder. I don't know. I haven't heard anything, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay, because folks were asking in the timeline if we had seen this and knew anything else about it.
It's on the internet. It's got to be true. Jason Nix yells in all caps. I don't know why I gave you that voice, Jason Nix, but it happens sometimes. Burned about Heinze and center backs with Atlanta said, I think one of the first things Heinze will do is to evaluate Campbell very thoroughly. So much of the remaining transfer dealings for Atlanta United depend on that. Yeah, I think the only really remaining transfer dealing, and this is leaving Ibarra and Novo out of it because we expect those to be done, is a center back. So if you're able to start getting on the field here pretty soon, or if you have good binoculars and you're able to watch people on the field as others organize who's playing where, with what you might have accidentally left a piece of paper on the training pitch for them to look at, can't be there. The coach can't be there yet. Not allowed. It's like old high school stuff. Anyway, not saying any of that's happening. I don't know anything about it. But you could be evaluating him now. You could be looking at him. And you could say, hey, look, I need somebody else. And look, Giannetti's been a captain at Vélez. I don't know if he's been the only captain at Vélez. You had Fernando Gago there for a long time. He's one that he didn't need a captain's armband if he didn't have it. He's a veteran and a legend. So it could have been a little bit different role than a typical captain, but Giannetti being a captain for Gabriel Heinze, if you decide that, hey, and we've talked about the leadership situation here, if you say, you know what, I don't want to put the armband on Joseph because he doesn't need it. I'd rather have it somebody, in the midfield or in the back. I don't want to put it on the goalkeeper because that's just not how I like to roll, which some don't. I kind of agree with that. I'm not a fan of goalkeepers being captains because I think they can be a little less influential. And if you decide, look, he checks all the boxes of what we want as a player, but then he also gives us this as a leader, then yeah, it's another box you check off. So could happen, and that might bump him above Campbell. But I think, yeah, Heinze is going to take a good look at Campbell and make a decision on, is he ready to be a starter? Is he ready to be a third center back when we play three center backs? Is he ready to rotate, or does he need to play at a lower level? And that's what you're going to have to make that decision on Campbell. DK says, I've seen Toronto already started training. I don't know the parameters of it, and the team hasn't released it, so I could not tell you. There's all these different things, and it was so confusing the way MLS announced this, with players could come in and go through quarantines and then start to train individually. And yes, we've seen pictures of Ezequiel Barco and Marcelino Moreno in training gear. Are they training individually and then in the locker room at the same time? I don't know. I don't know the situation. So what we've known from Atlanta in the past, and this has been consistent, is they are going to take every opportunity to train as much as possible. I think Tata Martino got in trouble for this at one point. They are going to take every opportunity to train to be as good as they possibly can be. So as soon as they can train, they will train. They're not going to sit back and just be, we're just chilling. No, we don't have to start training yet. We're fine. No, Gabriel Heinze will want to have this team training as soon as humanly possible. So that'll happen for sure. I don't know if that's now or not.
We are caught up on the Twitter. The one match in the Europa League is scoreless in the 52nd. Remember, 8 matches are at 12:55. 7 are at 3. Golasso Show is back. For those that enjoyed that experience with Nico Cantor, as is Zona Football, for those that can get that on your cable or TV-type system to watch the games.
There you go. Last night, Velez's lineup, Abram got the night off, and Giannetti started with Amor right after Valentine's Day. It makes total sense. Started with him in the back. So maybe he played on the left. Maybe that was an audition. Maybe it was so Gabriel Heinze could see it and watch it.
Where's the helicopter?
Maybe. No, the helicopters crashed. They took the day off.
Low ceiling.
Yeah, totally. Well, you didn't say your favorite team's name again, so you don't get helicopters.
Well, dude, I can do that once a show.
You've done it like 5 times in a show before.
Yeah, but after doing it that 5 times, it's like my throat hurts. So I'll do it the one time.
Fair enough.
And then it's just like, yeah, okay, so it's Kiev and Brugge, and they're scoreless in the 53rd. That's about it. It just hurt. It hurts too much to do it consistently like that, over and over and over in a very short period of time.
It's very sad. It's very sad. Going back just to go all the way to the beginning of the Giannetti talk, Felipe yesterday afternoon said, hearing from multiple sources that Atlanta United are targeting Vélez Sarsfield center back Lautaro Giannetti. On Friday, in Felipe's Q&A at The Athletic, he mentioned Giannetti as a strong option, and in that, he cut the paragraph, posted it on Twitter, so it's out there publicly. He talked about Heinze's central defenders at Vélez, Giannetti and Abram. Both have been linked with moves abroad. Abram has been linked, I think, with bigger moves abroad. Alaves in La Liga has been linked to him. He's the lefty. Giannetti's the righty. Giannetti has been linked with Sporting Kansas City in the past. That's where things stand right now. So, rumors, and it could be real. It could be targeting. I mean, I would be blown away if there was a list of potential center back signings and Lautaro Giannetti was not on it. But are they actually going to be able to get a deal done there? I don't know. That's the part we just don't know.
All right. What else is on your mind before we go?
Inter Miami, it's looking closer to a move happening for Ryan Shawcross. 33-year-old center back at Stoke. He's been dealing with injuries lately, reportedly fully fit. They've actually kept him out of the lineup a couple of times. He's been their captain. John Percy of The Telegraph is saying that Inter Miami and Stoke City are very close to agreeing to a deal for Ryan Shawcross. Not a massive name that maybe got people excited, but could be a good signing. 33-year-old center back. We'll see. We'll see how he holds up. Colorado Springs Switchbacks in the USL Championship have acquired a player that Atlanta United 2 fans will remember very, very well. Bienveni Kanekamana. They got him on a permanent transfer, too, thankfully, because he's been under the control of a club in the Czech Republic, I think in like the 3rd division. It's been really shady. MFK Vyskov. I think they're a 3rd division team. It looked like they had like 5 players registered at one point. I don't even know if they play real games. You see this happen, and it's a real shame with players from Africa who get hooked up with agents and get signed to these bunk clubs that aren't necessarily even real and then start getting loaned around. And Wesley Dacus ended up in a situation like this when he came to Atlanta before he signed on a permanent with Motagua. It's weird and it's tough, and I know Kanekamana, I know some people who know him, and he was trying to get away from the situation. He's trying to end up in a good spot for him. He's kind of bounced around a little bit since he left Atlanta. Getting back into the States is good. USL Championship level, very, very good for him. Really raw talent. Really, really raw. But explosive. And let's see what he can do being in the same place consistently and not having to wait to a phone call to say, well, now you're being loaned to a club in Austria. Now you're being loaned to a club in Belgium. Now you're being loaned to a club in Swahili. I mean, it's just, it's absurd. So hopefully this is some continuity for Kane Kimana, and we'll see what he can turn into. He's got the raw characteristics of an MLS forward. He's got the speed. He's got the pace. He's got the finishing ability. He's just extremely raw as a player. He hasn't played in a place consistently with a good manager coaching him up. Let's see what he can do in Colorado Springs. I'm excited just to see him back in this country and be able to watch him play consistently.
Yeah, Vyshkov is in the third level of Czech football. Last year, for those not up on their group stages from the USL Championship, Colorado Springs was 2-7-7 in their 16 games in Group C. Finished third, did not make the playoffs, but it was El Paso and New Mexico United that were far and away the best in that group. Colorado Springs, remember they're building their downtown stadium, moving into a new barn eventually. But looking forward to a full season of Benny Jets out in Colorado Springs to see what he can do for the Switchback. Should be fun.
Bernd is already on target with everybody else that Miami is going to be an unbelievable disaster. Wants Jarrett to come up with appropriate analogies for it. I'm just saying, I want to wait and see what all happens here. I don't think Phil Neville's a bad manager. And I talked about it with Jess. I feel like a lot of people have jumped into this idea that he's not qualified because he's friends with Beckham and because he managed the England women's national team. And we can't do it in the reverse. We can't say that Emma Hayes was 100% correct, as she was, when she said the Chelsea women's job is better than the AFC Wimbledon job. It's a better job. She's making more money. It's a better team. Flat out. Yes, it's a different gender. Is the game different? No, it's not. We can't say that she is ready and she is qualified to move over from the women's game, but Phil Neville's not. It's not like Phil Neville did nothing. Phil Neville took a team to the World Cup semifinal. He didn't just throw random tactics out there. You know, I think he knows what he's doing. Can he manage in this league with this group of players? That question comes up for every manager. Shawcross is not where I expected them to go. We'll see. I don't know. I'm not excited by that move.
No.
But I do want to see what they do big picture with building that team. I don't think Phil Neville's just going to be a bad manager because you don't like him or because he's friends with Beckham. The fact that people say he's not qualified, I don't think is fair. He hasn't managed at the club level. That would be something you could point to, but he obviously played at the club level. He understands the club game. He's not going to walk into the locker room in Fort Lauderdale and be like, wow, this is crazy to be running training every day. No, he's going to be fine with that. And he's managed at a high level on the women's side, which isn't any different. So let's see what he does. Judge him on that. If he comes out and the team looks completely disorganized and it's falling apart and people start griping and all that kind of stuff, judge him on that. But some of the jump to it's going to fail, the 30-year-olds from the championship, I agree. That's But at center back, now I'm looking at their roster and I'm like, okay, they need a left back. I don't think Patrick Segrist is a starting left back in this league. Goalkeeper, they got a question because John McCarthy has never been a first choice in MLS. Dylan Castanera is a good young player, but is he ready for that? Drake Calendar's not there yet. You don't have a left back that you can count on. LGP, good. Nicholas Figal, good, but he played mostly right back for you. Is he going to play center back? If Shawcross comes in, he's not. Dylan Nealis played on the right side. Actually, a pretty good pickup when you got Dylan Nealis. I don't think he can play on the left, though, and if you're going to play Shawcross and LGP together, okay, can they mesh? You play Figal at right back, okay, then Nealis is coming off the bench. That's fine. Or you're going to play three center backs, which is not the way that Neville played typically with England on the women's side. They played that 4-3-3. So that's kind of what I'm going on. Blaise Matuidi's got to be better. I don't care who the manager is. Blaise Matuidi has got to earn his paycheck. And there were too many times where he did not earn his paycheck. Rodolfo Pizarro was good. He needs to be better. You paid a lot of money for him. He needs to be better. Who do you pair up with them is the question. You know, Matuidi can't play that position by himself. He can't sit back and be the 6 by himself anymore. He doesn't have the legs for it. So, does Neville have to go get a 6? Or, well, Neville and Beckham and the rest of the crew. Or are you going to change the way you want to play and play a double pivot? Play Matuidi with somebody. You still need a 6, in my opinion. Pizarro, I would be intrigued to see them get a 6 and play Matuidi and Pizarro in front. Let Matuidi be in a very free role where he can just go hunt. Not ask him to do a ton defensively. Could be interesting. Anyway, then you're looking at the wings. Lewis Morgan, top winger in this league. Gonzalo Higuain, a full season. He should score goals for you. Who's on the other wing? Do you move Pellegrini over there? Do you play Carranza on the wing? Does Josh Penn, your draft pick, does he get a shot? I don't know. Breck Shea will be coming off the bench with that group. So, I don't know. Robbie Robinson, maybe. I don't know. There's questions that are a lot bigger than the manager for me with Miami. And I'm surprised they haven't started answering some of those faster. Shawcross doesn't. That's actually a position that I wasn't even having a question about because I assumed Figal would come back inside, Nealis would play right back, you'd go get a left back. But we'll see.
Yeah, Shawcross has only featured in 2 matches this season with Stoke. He was only in 5 matches. Yeah, in 5 matches in 1920. Broke a leg in the final friendly of the preseason. Had groin and calf strains. So in the last year and a half, because of all these injuries, he's only been in 7 matches for Stoke.
Yes, that's not going to be a great position to be in. That's going to hurt you a little bit. So is he fit? I don't know. Is he coming on a senior minimum deal? Then we're having a different conversation. If he's coming on like a deal with big expectations, then yeah, you got some problems. Byrne says, isn't the championship very overvalued in terms of transfer fees paid for English players? It appears Miami missed on their young South Americans last year, so they're going to England instead. That's a mistake. I don't know if they missed. I just don't know if they gave those guys a real opportunity. I mean, Pellegrini and Carranza, it's not like they overreached for those 2 guys. They paid about what they were talked about going for, and they were players that people were talking about. I don't think they gave them enough time. I don't think Diego Alonso did a good job with Miami, to be perfectly honest. I don't think he was all that great. So, all right, we'll see what they do. Shawcross, I'm with y'all. He doesn't excite me. If I'm a Miami fan, I'm not excited by that. I don't think it answers the needs at potentially goalkeeper unless you're going to go youth. Left back is a massive issue for me. And the 6 is a massive issue for me. You can make the right wing work. You can move pieces around there and make that work. But you can go inverted with Pellegrini on that side. That's fine. Or Morgan on that side. But goalkeeper, left back, and the number 6. The 6 is the most important one because you cannot play Blaise Matuidi as a 6 in this league. He will get eaten alive. So at least he can't play as a 6 by himself. If you're going to pair him with somebody, that's fine, but they need a 6 in the worst way. Shawcross doesn't answer any of that. It doesn't. I don't know if it changes anything yet with them. It might just be a 3rd center back. It might be a guy who can play some with LGP and Figal moves over to right back and you feel like that's an upgrade. I don't think it's a game changer for them. We'll see.
Where Inter Miami was for me, it's like they brought in all this young talent, but then when you brought in the Higuains and Matuidi, all of that young talent that you were looking at and hopefully going to get a lot of results from, they ended up taking a back seat, and you went with the experience to try to get you into the postseason. I just don't think the young guys got a chance last year.
Well, you're going to go to the experienced guys to try to get in the postseason. That part's fine. And Matuidi didn't take time away from Pellegrini and Carranza at all. That's not true. He took time from Will Trapp, and you'd moved on from Will Trapp. You'd already decided he wasn't going to be sticking around. Higuain did take time from Carranza. But if you have an opportunity to get Gonzalo Higuain, I understand that. I don't have a problem with that. But I'd like to see if they could play Carranza out wide on the right. Do you try to play 2 up top with Higuain and Carranza? Do you play a 3-5-2 of some sort or a 4-4-2 of some sort? I want to see what they do. But there's questions about that team. The 6 is the one that I keep coming back to because if they expect Matuidi to be that guy, I think they're going to get slaughtered. I just don't think he can cover enough ground.
Also, real quick, Manchester City looks like City Football Group looks like they've added another club from the French 4th Division, Vaughan OC, as a partner club to their portfolio. So someone else is now in City Football Group.
Keep adding them up. Keep getting more so you can go find those talents.
Yep.
Keep finding them.
We are caught. Oh, actually. So I thought we were caught up, and then Tom Russo jumped back in.
See, you gotta keep that up. You gotta have that as one of your 57 tabs that are open.
I do. Let's see. 3, 4, 6,
you gotta
8,
hit reload.
10, 12. I have 14 tabs up.
That's obscene. I'm not one of those people.
The Airborne DJ Tom Russo says from yesterday's show, he says, "You expecting people to actually read things before they freak out? That might be the silliest thing you've ever said." And that's not digging at you at all, by the way.
I know. I have high expectations of people. Read, please. And if you don't want to read, that's fine. But if you're going to put yourself out there in saying, this is wrong that they are doing this, make sure you know what you're talking about. That's all. Mm-hmm. Be responsible with your Twitter clout or your Instagram clout or your Facebook clout. Be responsible with your clout. Words to live by.
Yes. So is that going to be on a T-shirt?
No, it is not. What will not be on a T-shirt as well is we out. We're gone. We'll be back tomorrow morning. For those of you on the Discord, if anything comes up during the day, we'll talk about it. We will be doing the Q&A this evening at 7 o'clock. That's been a lot of fun the last couple of weeks, so I hope you can join us. The Discord is open for our subscribers. So our subscribers on Twitch, our subscribers on Patreon. We really appreciate all you guys as we try to grow this. We will have some 3-hour shows here eventually. I promise. We're just not quite there yet. But it'll happen. Let us get preseason started, okay? Let us get preseason going so we can start to get into form for 3-hour shows. But we'll have some because you guys demand it. But for those of you who subscribe on the 2 different platforms, you have an invite to our Discord. If you haven't gotten it, please let me know. I'll get that to you. And it's ongoing throughout the day. So when news breaks, when people have a joke that they're not able to throw into the Twitch pitch during the show, they throw it into the Discord. We all have a good laugh. We post some GIFs. It's good times. We do the Q&As on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. There is a separate channel for Jess's show, so if you have questions for Jess specifically, you can throw them in there. And we'll be adding more stuff as we go, as we continue to flesh out what that means. But I appreciate all you guys. Thank you very much for being part of all of this. We'll be back tomorrow. Mucho, mucho platio.
Mucho platio.